The quickest, the fastest, the best in the world.
Magnus Carlsen.
Dominant, absolutely dominant.
Chess at blazing speeds.
Get popcorn ready.
Moves without thinking.
Rook A8, Rook A8!
Tactics without blinking.
Oh, Knight of 64.
What in the world just happened?
Oh my god, he lost no time!
The Speed Chess Championship is the elite chess event of the year. For 9 years, the world's strongest Blitz players have matched wits over the 64 squares.
How does he do this?
This year, the world's best face-off.
Knight E7. He's blundering everything.
Fork, fork, fork!
You're watching the SCC on Chess.com, and it starts now.
Welcome, everyone, to the Speed Chess Championship 2025. Grandmaster Amon Hambleton joined by Grandmaster Eric Hansen. We covered another match together, Eric. Now we are back for Jan Nepomniachtchi against Anish Giri. It's all happening today. Are you excited for this one, buddy?
I am. I mean, last time I said I was hoping for a close match. Today, I think these guys, they know each other. They're two very established veterans in the field that I played here a lot. Definitely am. I'd say these are two of the guys we do know a bit more than some of the up-and-comers in the world of chess.
Exactly. Very, very established names, top players, and people that have played in the SCC for so many years in the past. So mainstays in this event. Before we get into all of the details about this head-to-head matchup, let's first go to a video right now, which is going to explain the SCC format for everyone watching.
The Speed Chess Championships feature the most exciting format in online chess. 3 different time controls test competitors' skills across Blitz and Bullet. First is the 5-minute Blitz. Players battle for 75 minutes in the strategic and accurate time control. Next are 50 minutes of 3-minute Blitz, the sweet spot. It's slow enough that there is some time to think, but fast enough that intuition and speed are crucial.
Oh, and he's going to eliminate the B-pawn and win.
Finally, 25 minutes of Bullet decide it all. Players are not just battling against their opponent and the board, but also the clock.
This is crazy. Hans was winning, and you spotted it, a double attack. That would have clinched it.
It's a race against time to score points before time runs out. In all time controls, games have 1 second of increment. Once time trouble sets in, the players may be able to avoid flagging, but they will be locked into a scramble for the rest of the game. Fast, furious, tilting, and thrilling, since 2016, the Speed Chess Championship format has been the standard. Who is the king of online speed chess?
Well, you heard it there. That is the format for the SCC. Of course, there is a timer, a match timer as well. The players trying to score the most points, getting a point for win, half a point for a draw. And of course, if there's a tie at the end, then there will be more Bullet to decide who's going to win. And if it's still tied, I mean, we haven't even got there, but there will be Armageddon with bidding should the need arise. And Erica, even in the interview with Hans, and we've heard so many top players say this, they view the SCC format as that marquee format, the best way of determining the best online players. Is that how you view it as well?
I think that's how I view it. I think that's the beauty of a one-on-one sport like chess. There's the World Rapid and Blitz Championships, which has a bit of the open Swiss format. Here, one-on-one matches in every single 5-minute, 3-minute, 1 minute. And the match is long enough, 2.5 hours, that if you lose a match, generally, you deserve to lose. I mean, you had enough time to catch up. It's not like the variance of playing a couple Blitz games. So I think all the top players, from a chess purist perspective, you can't really ask for more. It's just one-on-one overall quality across these speed chess time controls. Yeah, may the best player win.
Exactly. And let's have a look at our bracket. We get to see some of these matchups that are created in the quarterfinals. You can see the full view here. Obviously, we've got Hikaru and Wesley, Dennis and Hans. Those are already guaranteed quarterfinal matchups, but Magnus Carlsen and Alireza Firouzja are waiting to find out who they're going to be playing. Top right of your screen, that is Anish Giri and Jan Nepomniachtchi. That's where we're focusing today, Eric, because the winner, this is a tough match, but the winner moves on to face Alireza in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I mean, in past years, I mean, this format's been going on for a while now. You can even 5 years, even let's say pre-COVID, I would say parts of the field, there were easier parts of the bracket. There were some players invited that were top players, but not so good at online chess relative to their world ranking. These days, all the guys in the tournament, generally speaking, the level has risen so much online chess. Any part of the bracket is dealing with a top 3, top 5 player in either Blitz or Bullet. It's hard. It's a lot harder than it used to be, I would even say. Like, just everyone is just so competent with this regular practice of these like Title Tuesdays, EWC. And yeah, I mean, we can look ahead at the brackets, but this match today, I see that we're going to bring up the pre-match prediction, but even before we bring that up, to me, it looks like a pretty even matchup. And I would say, unlike the Ding Hans match, where one unknown with a young rising player is how much growth from year to year, Anish and Nepo, they've just been top players for a while. We don't expect a huge leap year to year. It should be a little more within the range of what people expect, what chess we can expect, and they're both active players. So to me, there's no reason for this match not to be very competitive.
Well, that's exactly the opposite of what we see here, right? The pre-match prediction has 72% for Jan Nepomniachtchi, 28% for Anish Giri. And hearing everything you were saying, Eric, I was nodding in agreement. It's like, that makes perfect sense. And yet here we have a pretty lopsided prediction model, 14-10. I'm gathering, Eric, that's something you probably don't agree with based on what you just said.
I don't agree with it. 14-10, that's the exact same score we had for Hans versus Ding. And I'm going to go out on a limb and guarantee it won't be that lopsided. Otherwise, I don't know what I'll do, but I'll make it up. But no, I mean, Nepo is, yeah, we've seen how he's performed in these time controls. And Anish, before we went online, Mon and I were talking, he's always better than people expect for speed chess. It's no longer as much of a surprise, but he does play more than you might think. It might be on accounts we don't know about. It might be training games in person, but Anish takes these very seriously. He's very good with the mouse. I mean, with some of the chess players, you can look at their hands and their fingers, and they kind of maybe have piano fingers, or like Anish is good with the mouse. He's not clumsy. He's got the speed. He's got that. Yeah. So it's to me really should be quite competitive, and I think the audience is going to be in for a good time today.
It looks like Giri almost had a reaction to maybe hearing you describe his piano hands there. I don't think he can actually hear us at the moment, but it almost looked like the comment was well timed for the reaction there. We know how much of a competitor Giri is, but also Jan Nepomniachtchi. They've actually played each other, Giri and Nepomniachtchi, in the SCC, Eric, not that often, right? Obviously, they've competed against one another for quite some time, but when it comes to actual SCC matchups, I mean, we really haven't got much to go off of. So it's kind of an interesting moment here, because we're looking at two players that we've seen compete so much, but yet the exact format that we're about to see, I mean, this is all new.
It is new, and I think a storyline like coming in, these are two players, even a year ago, people were talking about Anish Giri. He fell out of the top 10. He had some rough results. His FIDE went down to maybe 27-20, 27-30. And in the last year, he's really rebounded and had really good results. On the flip side, Nepo, his rating has gone from top 10. He's fallen out of there. He's had some bad classical results. Sometimes when that happens, you fall out of the top 10, you get fewer invites. Speed chess is that platform. It's that opportunity for you to get your mojo back. You know, classical, really hard, not that many tournaments. He has fallen off a bit. Nepo is at his lowest rating I've seen in a long time. This is a domain, and we're, you know, heading into, you know, the fall where the SCC is in action. The finals is in February. You have World Rapid on Blitz. You have Title Tuesday. So a lot of the players might even be transitioning to full speed chess mode if they don't have those other tournaments. And I think Nepo is really a prime candidate to be extra motivated for this match.
Yeah, and we actually saw both of these players in action, Eric, at the EWC in some form or another, right? Aurora Gaming, Team Secret, and so this being a path to the Esports World Cup in the next year is it's meaningful for both of these players and the clubs they represent.
Yeah, no, they're two prestigious orgs, and we know the EWC is continuing in its format. So any prestige, any momentum, any results you can bring to your team, it matters. This is the players something additionally that they're playing for.
And I think we are just moments away from games here, so everyone in chat, strap in. Eric, I also saw the prediction in the chat just prior to the show, and it was actually dead even. The entire chat voted, and it was 50-50 on who was going to win this match. So I think that's even further proof that this is going to be a good one.
I think so. Again, these are active players. The last match we just commentated, Ding, bit of more of an unknown quantity for online chess in terms of competing regularly against these guys. But Nepomniachtchi and Giri, no, they live online.
Yep. And here we go. We're starting with something classic, Eric. And I guess maybe as a more general question, are we expecting classic openings, classic chess from these two against one another as they sort of feel things out in the 5-minute portion?
I absolutely think so. When you look at the two players, though, they are quite a bit different, even though they're both really strong. Nepo has a capability of tilting. I've played him quite a bit. I've played Anish a little bit. He also can play some pretty risky things. For example, Jan, he's defeated me in a Chess.com tournament with the King's Gambit. I think he has a chessable course on there or some theory. Maybe he'll bring that out if things aren't going well, because if there's a format that you can play the King's Gambit, it's speed chess. Giri, though, has a reputation of being one of the most well-prepared players in the world, and it's a well-earned reputation, to clarify. So that's the question. Will Nepo play the Scotch? He plays against C4. He used to play the Scotch all the time, King's Gambit, and he has this classic Joko piano. It depends how the match is going, how things start. You have a bad start, like Ding versus Hans, things can go real bad. But I think it's just normal for the players to begin something easy, something they're familiar with, and then react accordingly. But it's no surprise, just in chess these days, that this is the main line, as opposed to entering the Roy Lopez Bishop C4 is where White is pinning their chances on just middle game play, pieces, tension. There's a lot of theory in some other lines that players are trying to avoid.
Yeah, and also we're early stages of this match, and it's all about adaptability, right? If something doesn't go well, you want to kind of figure out early what openings, what types of positions, what structures are working for you, and then try to stay within those boundaries. So starting out with something that's really no risk for Jan here makes a lot of sense. We just see the move Queen B3. It's putting pressure on the B7 pawn. That's the direct threat, and the move Queen C8 in order to defend. Now, usually at some point, you want to play the move D4 with White. This is really what the whole opening is working towards, but you can't quite do it yet. So we're going to see a little bit more development, maybe the rook from A1 to D1, and certainly bishop E3. Now you're starting to get ideas like taking on A7. Maybe the knight on C4 can come back into the middle on E3, and you're looking at the F5 square, the D5 square, and of course, D4.
Yeah, fighting for inches here. Anish is a very solid player. He didn't want to play B6 until trading the bishops, because you don't want your bishop hemmed in. Just tickling the position a little bit. The trades aren't bad for black. It means we're getting closer to an end game. And even if white eventually plays d4, which you strive for, you want to gain space, trading off two sets of pieces makes the player with less space much more comfortable. There's fewer issues, fewer pieces where you're like, I need to find a place for that piece. Those pieces are traded off. So even this knight on f6 is sitting pretty. Knight on f5 is good, but white doesn't have too many pieces to throw into the mix. In the Hans match, we saw bishop takes h6. We saw positions with the knight on f5, and you attack the king side. Well, here, white needs pieces on the king side to facilitate that attack. The knight on f5 is good, but we need a rook on g3, something like that. And with the move d5, well, it's questioning. Do you have time to swing your rook to g3 or not?
Yeah, I like that you just brought that up, because that's exactly what we see here. The move rook e3, a little bit multi-purpose, right? You want to swing to g3, but also the move d5 there was taking advantage of the fact that the e-pawn for white is a little bit overworked here. It needs to guard that knight on f5. So there are ideas of capturing on e4 here, Eric, and then maybe sacking the knight on e4. But due to the weakness to Anish's king, and yeah, he's going straight for this rook g3 move. This is very direct.
It's very direct, but queen e6 is such an important move because it covers h6. There's no knight takes h6, and black is preparing to take on e4 and probably force the queens off. And with the queens off, it's very hard to imagine white has checkmating possibilities with limited material on the king side. And so right now, so far, so good for black. I mean, Jan is asking questions, but Anish is ready to meet them so far. Rook g4, he's still committing to the attack.
Yeah, there's some and Anish leans in. I really think that the calculation is revolving around pawn takes on e4. And in that case, white's queen on b3.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, the queen on b3 would be loose. So I think you're either playing a casual move like rook a8 to d8, or if he's thinking, which he is, I'm assuming he's looking at pawn takes e4, the queen's exchange, and then maybe pawn takes on e6, and trying to muddle up the position that way.
It's definitely a possibility. I think Jan playing rook g4, quickly, Anish thinks like he believes in that move and these calculations that that exchange on e4 doesn't quite work. I like rook d8. The drawback of swinging your rook over to the king side. If this attack doesn't work, it takes longer for that rook on g4 to get back into an endgame. You look at an endgame is something where white, if the queens are traded off and the d file is contested, that rook on g4, it's offside on the only open file. So right now, there is an element of risk with the way Nepomniachtchi is playing. And Anish is saying, you know what? I'm playing standard moves, standard developing moves. I'm defending all your threats. And you're playing out of position here. If this attack doesn't work on g7, that knight on f5, that rook on g4 aren't going to help this battle for the d file.
And I wonder, I was looking at Anish's camera there. Couldn't tell if he was maybe getting some kid aggro, maybe something distracting. He had a smile on his face, so he's, let me focus here. I got to calculate.
Yeah, time to calculate, but I'd say like you look at Anish Giri, a position like this, technical position, pieces traded off, no big attack for white. He has to be happy with the resulting position. And Nepo's trying to make that rook work. Rook c4, pressure c7. I don't think white's doing poorly, but there's no way white should be better here. Black repelled the attack. Everything's guarded. Things are symmetrical. And these are the positions that can definitely determine a match when, like who's going to overpress here? Are the players just going to have a timid start? Because sometimes you lose a position like this where you have the expectation, this is fine, this is equal, I played all the right moves, and you still find a way to lose. That's so frustrating. Because the thing about speed chess is you can play the right moves and still lose because clock is such a big factor. And, it's an element that's arriving maybe in a minute. The players right now are playing at a good pace, but with still two rooks and a knight on the board, and now we see Nepomniachtchi playing b4. There's still some imbalances. There's still possibilities to blunder. I guess any position you can blunder, but knights are on the board, pawns are loose. d3 is a weakness for white. b6 is a weakness for black.
Yeah, I feel like in spots like this, the one thing that I always like about white's position is that the king can act as a real participant, meaning when the king gets to e2, suddenly the rook on d1 is free to go to the b1 square. So even though it looks like maybe black is applying the pressure, I feel like a lot of these positions can turn around quickly. You know, the knights get exchanged, and then suddenly black's king is not participating to the same degree that white's king is.
That's definitely a case, and I think black's main argument is you can do everything Amon just mentioned, bring the king in, pressure b6, but what happens if black puts a rook on a8? How can you overwhelm the b6 pawn while defending a4?
Right. Yeah, but we're going to see probably exactly this, actually. The king moving over to d2, and black is just going to apply pressure. I think Giri's going to be attacking the c3 pawn, the a4 pawn, so that if you ever want to capture b6, you're going to lose something in return. And as you mentioned, there's a full defensive idea with rook d to d6. And then once you defend everything, it's time for black's king to make it to the d6 square itself.
Yeah, without a doubt, the players are playing very precisely right now, and it's hard to say it's anything but equal. Just too many weaknesses for both sides. c3 needs to be guarded, a4 needs to be guarded, d5 is loose, b6 is loose. Typically what happens here is mass exchanges, because you need to make a case. How can you win b6 without losing a4? And I don't see that right now.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult to imagine. And there's f pawn, the c pawn, and the a pawn are all targets. And there is even the possibility, Eric, of rook to c6, king d2, and rook back. But looks like we'll get a few more moves in this one.
Yeah, even if you want to play for a win, you need an imbalance. So that could be losing a pawn and getting a pass pawn. This is an imbalance right now. Black can win c3 after losing b6, so white has the passed a pawn, but black has more pawns in the middle. But after rook b5, we could be looking at a position I'm on where Anish picks up a pawn.
Yeah, Nepomniachtchi will grab the pawn, but it looks to me like Anish wasn't expecting that, right? He might end up making a draw here, but he's really going to have to work for it a little more than he probably expected.
We could say it probably wasn't necessary.
Yeah, exactly.
But at this level, this endgame, up a pawn, but it's the outside a pawn, normally speaking, or was going to be. Now it's just the e pawn. This should be a draw, and the players have enough time. But your job is to squeeze every position you can in a match where you are ahead. And having that extra pawn as white means pawn endgames are typically winning if you can force the rooks off. If you can't force the rooks off, you need to push your pawns in a way to create an imbalance. Okay.
And
So
king
rook
g7
c3.
is met by e6. So there's maybe a little bit of annoyance that the black king can't really get up to the g7 square, but that's about it.
Yeah. Still requires a blunder to mess up.
Yeah. And a lot of liquidation here.
Yeah, king g7, e6, as you mentioned, but that h pawn on its own isn't enough.
But Jan is trying,
here,
right?
Jan is trying, and Anish is under 10 seconds, has to hold steady. The problem for white here typically is your king can get checked forever. Where is the shelter for white's king if black starts checking from behind? There isn't shelter, so he's looking to give up that pawn, go rook and pawn versus rook. This is still a book draw, but better than allowing infinite checks from behind.
Ooh, 1 second.
Oh, that was close. I was so immersed in the position,
close.
probably like Anish, that didn't even see it.
Yeah,
King
he
in
went,
to stop
I think,
e6.
under a second there, and he's now got the right technique, but he's also pre-moving, so he's like getting that time back up to 5 seconds. It's a little bit better now.
Yeah, Anish is very competent in bullet. Black keeps placing the king on f7 every time white is ready to play e6. Even e6 doesn't work because you can check from behind. So pay attention to Nepomniachtchi's rook, that black rook. Its job is to just check white's king whenever there's an opportunity.
Yeah, and this has been well defended so far, but again, all it takes is one mistake, and we've seen it all in the SCC.
We absolutely have. And one thing to look out for here is at some point white does have to push that e-pawn, but he's waiting as long as possible to give opportunities to flag the opponent or for Anish to put a piece on the wrong square.
Right.
There aren't many tricks here, to be honest, but
He's
worth
trying
a
every
try.
single one, but to Anish's credit, and you see that smirk from Nepomniachtchi there, that's 50 moves, and I think you can't complain. That was really impressive defense from Anish Giri when he needed it. Obviously, we expect that, but still, first game, nice to get by with no mistakes.
No, for sure. You lose a position that you know is a book draw. That's extremely frustrating. Anish, though, very, very good technical player. Cool under time pressure there.
Yeah.
That end game, right? The only way to win is to force the king out and be able to push your pawn. But every time tried to do that, Anish placed his king right near the pawn. Just never allowed any sort of trick. It is expected at this level, but when you're under 2-3 seconds, you can even mouse slip. Like that's just simply a big factor. In you've seen that in some of these online events. Like just under time pressure, you're capable of doing anything. You know, just the nerves can add up. And man, like how I played a move I would never play in a million years. That happens when you're under 1 or 2 seconds. So it's easier said than done. But definitely a good hold for Anish. And now we have one of his positions. You know,
yeah, we're
Nepomniachtchi, I think he strives in sharp positions. He's one of the best tactical players in the world. Game plan to play against him, play some slower, dry positions, and maybe hope he gets ambitious or oversteps or just gets bored a little bit. You know, he's someone who thrives with sharp positions, calculates really well, plays really fast. When Nepomniachtchi has the initiative, just in general, he's one of the quickest players in the world of chess. You can play a classical game spending very little time on his clock, but those are generally positions that he enjoys where he can put pressure. Here, this is a pretty static position where white just maneuvers the knights around, hoping for moves like b6. Pawn to b6 because that would weaken the c6 square. You can plant the knight there and really annoy black's setup. So in the meantime, Nepomniachtchi doesn't want to touch that b pawn. If anything, you can touch the c pawn, but rather touch nothing and give nothing in the meantime.
Yeah, and the move f4 is to play the very nice king f3 next. It's going to take control of the e4 square, but also it's going to support pawn g4 and pawn g5. So in some ways, you're looking at Giri's position, and it's one that you can immediately see ideas. You can move the knight on c4 at any time. The c pawn would be attacked, which is why we saw c6. The plan of g4, g5 is very, very quick, and it displaces the knight from f6 on a good square. So I'm expecting that we're almost going to see maybe the knight on c4 reposition, could be to the e4 square to play knight c5, could just be to e5. There's a lot of different ways to play this position, but I just think that Giri's done a great job with it so far.
Giri's done a great job. This is exactly the type of chess he likes. He's a technical grinder. And I see endgames where white's favorable. Even this pawn on a5, there's some positions where I'm going to play a knight on c4, a knight on c5, even allowing an exchange, but cutting off black's ability to protect the a5 pawn. And just these knights, it's a semi-open position. That dark squared bishop is hemmed in by white's pawns. Even though they're in dark squares, they're all protected. And I'd say it's certainly easier to play with the knights here, to just maneuver around. Rook h6, that is a big move. A lot of players would be worried about that h6 pawn being a weakness. I mean, we have to calculate some things here. And takes, knight f6, king takes f6, there's knight g4, king g7, knight e8. There's some tactics there by Anish. It was a little too quick to show, but there was a way he could have picked up something if Jan took on h6.
Yeah, and the fact that you can't actually take is really troublesome.
Maybe?
I'm looking at your exact idea, Eric. The one you mentioned earlier might work. Take the rook on h8, knight e5, bring it to c4. You know, your move knight c5 as well. And you also have moves like knight d2 to b3, like two knights attacking the a pawn to just gang up on it. So I think the endgames are looking great.
Yeah, I'm putting that on the board right now. Some endgame like this, knights and pawns, but the a5 pawn is cut off. Like b6 is targeted. So there's a lot of positions we're looking at here, Amon, where 2-result game. And
Completely.
it's passive. Passive is not what Jan Nepomniachtchi thrives in.
No, and he's just played the move bishop e7. So he's taking control of the f6 square, which looked like the target. But now Anish is saying, well, that wasn't the plan at all. Going to relocate with knight
Knight
e5.
c5,
And now,
yeah.
is he going to find
It's
it?
the smallest of things, but I saw this from a mile away that a5 pawn is impossible to defend, and white's knight on e5 is ready to jump to c4 and target it. Black doesn't want to play b6 and lose the c6 pawn in the future or weaken it. Might be forced to, but a critical think here, because these endgames, even material, limited material, but very tricky. Very, very tricky.
Yeah, and don't forget the pawn structure is not ideal on the king side. So black's king is going to have to permanently stay on the f7 pawn. White's king, however, can reposition to where the action is going to be. King e2, king d3. You can play e4 to dislodge the knight. So white's king and pawns, they're all mobile, whereas for Jan here, I'm not seeing the same flexibility in the structure.
No, this position, I think I would lose most of the time. This is extremely uncomfortable. As you mentioned, then on e5, it's so centralized, so good. It can always pivot and attack a5, but in the meantime, it targets f7. If black ever plays f6, f6 weakens the g6 and e6 pawns, and that knight is still standing strong on e5. That would just add additional isolated pawns to black's position. You could say, like, Anish has, like a jiu-jitsu top position here. All the options.
Yeah,
he
full
makes all
control.
the choices here. And there's no risk.
Yeah, it's a 2-result game. We use that a lot when describing chess. And 2 results, we're not talking about
that
winning
does
and
not
losing.
look good. No, this move doesn't look good. You can't defend c6. If you play c5, I can take and target a5, probably knight c6. This is playable. If bishop d8, c5 is loose. With simple knight moves, Anish looks primed to win a pawn. And if you win a5, that's a passed outside pawn.
Yep, and f6 is desperation, Eric. He's
dire
realizing
position
that it's over on the queen side, so he's playing a move that he knows is bad.
Yeah, you have to make a move right now because you know you can't defend the pawn. f6 tries to trade off and open things up a little bit. It has drawbacks, but at this point, there's no good options. Anish is deciding, do I take on a5 right now? He's like, might as well. And white is up an outside pawn. Nepomniachtchi is looking to trade off remaining pawns, because then you look at positions where, yes, I'm down a pawn, but if there's very few pawns left on the board, might even be able to sacrifice a piece, get into a drawn endgame. You're already looking for escapes there as black.
Yeah, b3 makes a lot of sense, securing the c4 square, also stopping the pawn from moving. So now knight b7 becomes a tempting option as well.
Yeah, so knight c7, maybe to play knight a6 in anticipation of your move. I like king e4. It looks pretty safe and centralized for me. Doesn't get kicked out from any of black's pieces, and you're threatening to play king e5. So that's a safe move. Knight b7, if it doesn't win c5, I'm not sure I want my knight on the side of the board, right? Compared to knight c4. King e4 is just a high quality move regardless.
Yep, nice and safe. And king f6 had to be played to stop king e5. We need to see some repositioning here because the white king can't really make it any further. So he might try to bring the king back to d3. The knight, as we've been talking about, needs to come back into the game from a5. And that outside passed a pawn, that's the extra pawn in the position. That's the difference maker.
And white doesn't need to push it yet. Like, the timing is everything. You'd love to push it in a position where you can keep pushing it. Yes, you can play it to a6, a5 safely. Keeps the knight on c7. It has to stay there. Oh, e5 I'm on. That weakens the light squares. I'm thinking you can now reposition your knight to c3, grab the light squares. You might even be able to put your king on c4 and overwhelm the c5 pawn. King c4, knight c3, knight e4, and all of a sudden you'd have 3 attackers.
Yeah, I don't think there's any surviving this. That c-pawn is going to drop. The king cannot go to d6. Jan is not liking this
winning
position.
plan, because black will try to play king d7, king c6. But if you ever play king d7, in some positions, white can walk in with king d5. So that wasn't playable. All right, here we go. 2 connected pass pawns versus the 1 e pawn. This should be winning.
It should be a win. I can't blame Nepo, right? Because why wouldn't Nepomniachtchi want to take this pawn and then run the king back? He knows he was going to lose it anyway. At least he got the e-pawn in return, and his goal is maybe to sack the knight for the pawns, but Giri's not going to let that happen.
No, you have to sack the knight for both pawns. White's not going to allow that to happen. And in the meantime, even knight exchanges are winning for white. White's king would be able to win the e-pawn. There wouldn't be any race. So just have to do this carefully here.
Yeah, knight endgames, Eric, are truly so tricky. I feel like there's less general principles to follow than any other endgame.
I think he's playing knight b4 or knight e7. Trying to play knight, yeah. Trying to maybe get the knight to c6. And then you have this king c7 winning idea.
That's a good
Okay,
looking square.
king c6, knight d4. But you can go king. You can play king d6 as well there.
And then, yeah, maybe a knight c8 or something.
Exactly. So king c5 is fine. I think he's got to find king d6 after, realizing black can't win the b pawn because the a pawn pushes. That's one of the winning ideas. King d6. If knight d4, you have knight check. Trading off, and you win the race.
I was actually
King
looking
d6.
at king b4, knight d4, knight c6, and I was wondering, is that trade playable? Maybe, is he calculating it? No, he goes knight c8. Can't repeat, by the way. If you go back to e7, it's no good.
Nope. This also works. Maybe trying to place the knight. I was going to say place the knight on c4, but here maybe he just wants to walk the king to c7. Knight check. King here. You can't walk the king to c7 because I can sacrifice on b5. Anish has missed some clear wins here. Position is still winning. Clock is under 10
7
seconds.
seconds.
Uh-oh. What has been missed here? I'm a little shocked by what I'm seeing.
I mean, I guess it's e4 and king b6.
King b6.
Wow.
This is a tremendous find by Jan Nepomniachtchi, but Anish missed a bunch of trivial wins there. And he's got to be kicking himself. I was saying you need to get the king to c7, and I think he saw some ghosts there. It happens, but he knows, he looked like he shook his head or made a reaction. That's a game he expects to win 10 out of 10 times.
Truly.
The only way to mess that up is to allow the knight to sack for both pawns, and that's exactly what happened.
You said it, Eric. You said it already. Time pressure makes fools of all of us. We end up doing things, making decisions we would never make under normal circumstances. That's why this is speed chess, right? It's a part of the game, and there's no other fathomable situation that Anish Giri does not win that position.
For sure. I'd say talking about the match situation, that type of game, that type of position is what Giri wants. To grind down Nepo, to play solid positions without a lot happening, make it boring, have a small push. Didn't win that game, but game plan wise, very, very successful. So if I'm in his shoes, I'm frustrated, but in terms of like how the game went, happy that I'm the one pushing, I'm the one dictating.
Is this, Eric, this position in front of us? I'm just trying to count up the pieces here, but it looks like is this theory? Like, can this be theory?
Yes. I have to assume so, especially this opening. Yes. Black gets a bunch of pawns or a piece. They're playing too fast, I think, for it not to be something they're both familiar with.
Wow. And from such a known opening as well, we have a full extra piece, but it almost looks like an endgame that both of the players have maybe looked at. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4 pawns
about
for
to be
a
5
piece.
pawns potentially. But the most important pawn for white is the a5 pawn. If white ever wins the a6 pawn, that's a dangerous runner, and you have the extra piece. 5 pawns is a lot, or even 4 pawns, but are they able to push? Not quite yet. Not quite
Sometimes
yet.
5 pawns is enough for a rook, Eric. We're talking about just a piece here. Is the value of that a5 pawn is just so high. It's kind of an incredible position.
I was saying the types of positions that Nepo would like to play. This is exactly it. Imbalanced, attacking chances, sharp calculation required, and just a clear game plan. If you win the a6 pawn cleanly, and when I mean clean, it means you win a6 and rook a8 doesn't hurt you. Because the one thing you can't afford is to lose your a5 pawn. If all the pawns are on the same side of the board, even if you're up a piece for 3 pawns, the 3 pawns should be fine. You need to retain passed pawns and as many pawns as possible. Because in the long run, when you have a piece for 3 pawns, you're like, I have more pieces than you. I'm going to use that extra piece and overwhelm and pick off some pawns. Well, you need pawns on your side of the board remaining, because 2 pieces versus 1 piece, just an endgame, that's a draw, generally speaking.
Yeah, this knight c5 move, you want to win that pawn, but as you're pointing out, rook a8 is always available. I have no clue how to make perfect sense of this position, but that's why it's so intriguing, and probably why both players are fine being here. Because if the evaluation is somewhere around equal, it just means that if you kind of understand the position better from either side, you have a chance to outplay and win. Like being 4 pawns, maybe 5 pawns down, it's easy to get overwhelmed. One mistake, Eric, and suddenly those pawns are connecting, they're running down the board. And similarly, if you lose that a pawn cleanly, it could just all end.
I agree with that. I will say, it might say it's very balanced. I prefer white's position. Just white's potential, to me, is higher than black's potential. And that's referring to either winning the a6 pawn or coordinating your pieces that you can target the c5 pawn and then maybe get to the king. I prefer white a little bit. Just the win condition seems easier than black's. But when you have a bunch of pieces for a pawn, you need that pawn avalanche. You know, activate those pawns, push those pawns, grab space. That involves playing like f5, g5, e4. Anish is almost ready to play that, but we see positions here. Can't quite do it yet. There's rook takes c7 check. Again, you lose the a6 pawn cleanly, and that's probably the game. So
Anish is like a
white
shark.
h3, and those ideas are still retained.
The shark in the water here.
Yeah,
he's gone down to, it's gone down to sea level here. He's really calculating this one out. I expect something, to come out of this thing here, guys.
Well, actually, he's playing from the Netherlands, Amon, so that's below sea level.
That's right.
They have to build things to prevent the flooding.
That's right. Yeah, it seems that he's temporarily gone under, and he'll come up for air soon. Deep calculation here, guys.
He's looking for something concrete. You don't want to play this position with constant tension, and that tension is that a6 or c7 is going to fall. Looking to clarify the position, get into some rook endgame that maybe black has activity, black can win the a5 pawn. Again, f5 is a critical move to look at. Doesn't play it yet. H4 is good. You don't need to hang that pawn. G5, that is not it.
That is
as long as the a5 pawn is there, now we're looking at an imbalance of 3 pawns for a piece. It used to be 4 with a potential of 5. 3 pawns at the minimum. I prefer white, but now,
So this is what he came up with, by the way, and he's sacrificing the g pawn to play c5 with the idea that you can't win the c pawn without giving up the d file, and there's checkmate threats on d1. But knight f7 played quickly from Jan Nepomniachtchi. We know he's one of the quickest players. How demoralizing, Eric! You spend like 2+ minutes on a calculation, and it's a blunder, and Jan punishes it with the best move immediately.
He spotted it a long time ago, and I think it all revolves around the fact that there's an a pawn. You can go into so many endgames that normally would be fine. Problem is here, you lose that a pawn, and that a5 pawn is going to be a winner. If there wasn't the a pawns, a knight versus a rook, 3 pawns versus 1, that would be fine. Yeah. Black would be able to take. Not possible here because of the rook d6 move as a follow-up. And this is the type of momentum Nepomniachtchi is known for. He gets a position, he sees things quickly, he plays, he notices you start spending your time. That gives him energy. He starts calculating better. And we saw it is demoralizing. You spend 2 minutes and your opponent just plays right away.
10 seconds to almost 4 minutes. This is the biggest time deficit I've ever seen.
Maybe you give a check. Maybe you play knight c6. The bishop can go to b1. Oh, yeah, he's just...
And I think you'd agree, Eric, this is a Nepomniachtchi specialty. Like, when he starts feeling the momentum and knows you're in time pressure and you're missing things, he pounces.
For sure. And it's so important that there's even like this... He wants to place the king on c5 where it's sheltered. So that a pawn doesn't push that easily. If white loses the a pawn, even though white's up a piece, it's not winning. Oh, there's a checkmate threat on h1.
Mm-hmm.
Knight
Oh, the
c3
time
is
he
that
made that with
trapped?
point one.
But you can push. You can push, and maybe you can play knight f6. Something concrete's required here.
He's got the time to find it.
Rook h7 to play rook a7. Knight, is it knight e5 to play knight c6 and a7 and fork the king and the rook?
Exactly.
Something concrete.
And you still have an f pawn there.
You still have the f pawn. 3 minutes and 15 seconds for Nepomniachtchi to find the winning move, and I'm expecting it to be there. Okay. I'm a little surprised by some of the moves, I got to be honest.
Eric, one of the
They're
things
missing
that
something.
I think everyone knows about Jan is
You can
that
take.
he plays quick no matter what.
You can take and play a7 and knight check and knight here.
Knight b8.
Check.
Exactly.
Check.
He sees it.
Block shield. You can take on b4, knight check, shield from the rook. Anish shakes his head, gave Nepomniachtchi that opportunity for that winning tactic, and just not the type of position. I'll say that middle game might have said it was equal. I don't believe it's equal in speed chess. I thought that was easier to play for white. I think Anish is unlikely to repeat it unless there's a break in the match and he repairs something in that line. But there was just too much risk with that a pawn, and in the end, that won the game.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was a moment there near the end where Nepomniachtchi actually maybe didn't play the most accurate, but this is exactly how he plays. And it is live by the sword, die by the sword. He plays so quick to get that advantage. He doesn't necessarily slow down. He just trusts himself. And, you know, sometimes it really costs him. Anish almost made the comeback there, but ultimately that position is too tough to play and survive in. And Jan just, you know, he was going to make that win happen up 3 minutes. As we're into the next game, Jan has a lead 2-1 in this 5-minute portion. And I think this will be the last game before the break. And you mentioned a break to maybe repair some variations, Eric, but a huge difference between maybe a 2-2 and a 3-1 situation.
Yeah. You want to, you have this white game before the break. The last game, Anish had white, messed up a winning position. He wants to make an impact right here. Playing a Catalan and already a different position. The previous game with white, Anish had a very static Catalan-like position where you get to maneuver the knights.
Mm-hmm.
Here, there's a bit more tension. Black is taken on c4. It's a little more loose right now, a little more double-edged. The question is Nepomniachtchi making a change here? Because I definitely don't agree with the last position he had as black. It certainly favored white and Anish's ambitions to just calmly take space, make annoying moves, and play away from Nepomniachtchi's strength. These open positions, sharp tactics. Anish is strong in tactics too, but he's very, very good at these slow technical positions. That's where he's going to find success.
That's right. And I think that the position we've got here is sort of, it's not really defined as one or the other. I would say it's trending a little bit more open, but it has the possibility that it could just, you know, sort of liquidate or transition into a positional game. So it's not quite defined just yet. Offering an exchange here on d6 and not taken by Anish, but Eric, at some expense here. The move knight to b4 prevented by a3, but the light squares are starting to get very weak. Knight a5, bishop c6, knight b3, knight d5, all over the light squares in the position.
This is a fighting position. Black has taken the pawn and now is holding on to it. So this is a guaranteed sharp position. When you play this as white, you're down a pawn in the Catalan. You play for activity. This is no longer going to be a slow, methodical game. White needs to use that space in the middle. In fact, when you have a pawn on e5, you put a knight on e4, you often shift your pieces to the king side because e5 grants you space. Takes away f6 and d6 from black's pieces, gives you space on e4 for pieces, and you expect to see the queen to move over to the king side. Because on the queen side, this isn't any better for white. And in the long run, black will play a6, b5, secure that extra pawn, and then look to trade pieces off into an endgame and be like, you know what? That extra pawn is enough for me. So
Yep.
Anish needs to figure out ways to keep the pieces on the board, but for Jan, exactly the kind of position. Sharp, imbalanced, forcing Anish to no longer play building up moves, but to actually take the initiative and attack and make things sharp.
Yeah, and if you could just swap every single piece over, like take the rook on b1 and put it on e1, put the queen on c2 to e2 and g4, and play h4, h5. All of these moves contribute, and we see these exact moves being played. It's a big shift to the king side. The h6 pawn will be threatened after queen g4. The black king's going to have to move. White may try to actually play h4, h5, and just fix that pawn on h6. So it's a big transition to a king side attack now.
You have to do it. That's where the attacking potential is, and you have no other pawn breaks. One thing to note: black is not taking on f4 yet. You're wondering why? Well, that knight on d5 is very good. By taking on f4, you open up the g file, and that might help white put pressure on g7.
Exactly.
Bishop c6,
Yeah,
exactly. Plant the bishop, maybe put the queen here. Knight b3. Okay, Anish goes for a trade, but this indicates not really playing for a win. Probably didn't like the position that much. Trying to win back the pawn, even if it transitions to a more equalish endgame. It's very imbalanced right now still. Black would love to induce white to take on d5, then you can take back with e-pawn, and you, again, secure your extra pawn. Your extra pawn is that c4 pawn. You look at the a-pawn, doubled a-pawns. Can that be bad? Yes, but if the c pawn is secure, you can use the double pawns, use the b file, double up, and target b2. That's a weakness. Double pawns aren't always bad. If they can't be targeted, they do open up a file. Over here, already, Nepomniachtchi with a minute and a half extra. Anish wants to cleanly win back that pawn, but right now it's not easy because you have to decide. My bishop's being targeted on g2. I don't want to take here, but if I move my knight to e4 and avoid the exchange, all of a sudden, I'm not winning c4. Black plays rook b8, maybe rook b3, doubles up, and we don't have a plan to win back the pawn. Taking here, I'm expecting the knight to shift to e3 and then play f4. This is a gamble by Giri because black is firmly up a pawn here with b-file activity, but with the knight on e3, I think, first of all, black should maybe move the queen out of the way at some point and play c6. But look for white to play knight e3, f4, use some kingside majority, but this is a all-in attempt. Because material-wise, look, rook b3, these are all the moves we've been looking at. b-file is going to be active. Black is up a pawn. Anish is down a minute and a half. If he just plays passive, we know that Nepomniachtchi feeds off of that, right? He's going to play fast. He's going to play these active moves. He's not under any pressure.
Exactly how to continue.
I thought f4 is going to be played, but maybe it's not in time. Moving the queen is so important. Not only does it put pressure here, but you're ready to play c6. c6 is important. Then you never need to use a piece to defend d5, and your rook on d8 can fully shift to the b file.
Yeah, c6 is a key move next.
Look at a4, classy move. Using these double pawns perfectly. You take on b3, I correct my structure. I have ideas in the endgame. The pawns are on dark squares for my bishop. Trades are not good for Giri. This knight on e3 looks pretty, but c6, solid. Rook b8, this is close to objectively lost. The question is, what can Giri do right now to change the course of the game? Because the moves are too easy for Nepo.
Yeah, bishop g5 hits the knight, but again, there's no f4 because the bishop can just take it. All the pressure is on the b pawn. All of this knight e3, f4, f5 stuff that was maybe going to happen it's just not happening anymore. So king h1, desperately trying to get the pawns going, but it feels much too little too late.
No, this isn't even how you push the pawns. And now we see the issue. If the knight goes to e3, there's even positions. The queen can jump into e4. And then you can't even touch your f-pawn. Bishop e7, I don't mind. I thought he might actually play bishop d8, bishop a5, and play c3 to really shatter the queenside pawns. But rook d3, preparing rook b3, trying to get it past d-pawn, I think. This looks very good from Jan. But again, look at this. Extra pawn for black. Pawns on dark squares. Light squares. Dark squared bishop. Black has control over both colors of the board.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily want to play f4 here, but it is possible.
You can trade queens. You can play queen e4 to try to take towards the center and support your passed pawn. Lots of good choices here. I don't see any playable position for Anish. His knight on f1 can't jump into the game because rook endgames are lost. Black will just probably take here in some positions.
Yeah, it's hard to move at all. Knight d2 can be captured. The d pawn is hanging. Taking here supports
As
the
I said,
d3
rook
pawn.
endgames are drawn. Are lost, and this game won't go on for much longer. I think. You can bring the king in. White wants to bring the king to f4. It's a bit of a race. You get the king to f4, at least you put a bit of pressure on. But I can see Black's king getting to d5 in time. And that race should still be good for Nepomniachtchi, but he's looking for something cleaner.
Right.
I'm surprised by that.
I mean, it looks like the king was getting there.
I'm shocked by this move because bringing the king in was completely winning. I want to maintain. This is still good. I just like the idea of my pawns being connected.
But this is what I've been saying about Jan Nepomniachtchi is he'll constantly miss maybe the best move, and he has like 2 minutes and tons of time, right? And the eval bar is going to go up and down, but he gets it done anyway.
It gets it done anyways. It was never drawn. I just had a different way of doing it. But I have to say, that is an impressive game. And this is why I'm about the styles. I think the players, we've had a very combative first part of the match. That's what we can say. But Nepomniachtchi takes a 3-1 lead. And talk about the momentum, Amon. We had the first game as a draw. Wait. Yeah, right? First game was draw. Second game, Anish was completely winning.
Exact. Draw.
Draws that. He's got to be so frustrated. And the momentum shift. Nepomniachtchi wins 2 sharp games to take a 2-point lead heading into our first break.
Yeah, and I mean, you said it, sharp games. Those are the positions that he's been thriving in. And what I've noticed in a couple of these ones is that Anish has taken multi-minute thinks. He's got himself into positions where Jan is just up so much time. And he's such a quick player already that when you take that extra minute or two, suddenly it's like 4 minutes to 10 seconds. And it's just hard to envision that paying off in the long term. But a break is obviously a moment where you can fix some stuff like that. And before we go to the break, Eric, a game that I know you've had some success with trying out yourself, Anichess. It's chess, but with a twist that your engine can't prep for. Anichess takes the classic game and it flips the script with spell mechanics that let you bend the rules and break your opponent's plans. You've got 11 spells to master, tournaments to enter, and leaderboards to climb. So go.chess.com/Anichess, whether you're novice or GM, free to play, and you can use !Anichess in chat. Eric, did you claim a win against Magnus in this one?
Yeah, I wanted you to mention that. !Anichess, I have a match win against Magnus Carlsen.
Boom.
You know, bend the rules, you know? A lot of us, we might need to bend the rules to pick up some wins, but no, it's a different format, different variant, but still some strategy there, and I like it. I like games that I'm good at.
There you go. Anichess. Guys, we'll be right back with the SCC after this break.
You know, I fell in love with the game very fast.
An incredible game.
He finds it.
Wow.
This is checkmate.
We have fireworks.
I was born in Russia, in St. Petersburg, to a Russian mother and a father from Nepal. Chess was sort of part of our family. The father of my mom and the father of my dad, they were like casual chess fans. So my parents knew about the game. They had a chessboard at home. In fact, my mom, she liked to play chess with people who would visit our house. Then I got interested at some point, and my mother taught me the basics. Actually, she started when I was 5, so it was a bit early for me. I didn't understand like some of the rules, and so she let it go. But then when I was 6, I got a book, and then I could sort of reread the rules at my own pace. Then I actually, I was able to play properly, and I played with my mom at first, and then she brought me to chess club. And in Russia, there are like plenty of chess clubs for children. Actually, I was very lucky as a kid. My mom, she wanted to bring me to the nearest chess club, which was a lot smaller, and it was closed on that day. And so we had to travel a little further. But the other club where we ended up, that was actually a much bigger club with like better coaches and much more sort of professional. And yeah, that really helped. So the coaching there and so on. So I got pretty good pretty early on. So in some way I was even lucky, you know, that the club that was near us, that was closed for renovation or something. It was just luck from the start in a way. So, you know, I fell in love with the game very fast. The game itself captivated me, but also the fact that there was something I was really good at, you know. I started winning really early. So the thing is, my mom, she did something really clever and not on purpose. So I played her a lot and I started beating her. And, you know, she's a decent amateur, so I was already at a pretty good level. And then she brought me to the chess club and they asked her, like, what's the level of your child? And she said, he's a complete beginner, which was not true because I was already beating her. So they put me in the weakest section and I won all my games there. And then as I did that, they moved me to the next section, but like I kept sort of growing along, so I kept winning all the time, like literally all the time. I think that really helped me a lot because even now when I do something and I'm not really good at it, like I'm immediately like, you know, I like to do what I'm good at. And so in that sense, my start to my chess career was, you know, really just, you know, very positive, very happy. So I just kept winning and I kept playing. And yeah, the first real like big obstacles or challenges, they came a lot later. And by that time I was, you know, I was pot committed to the game.
Whether it's sunglasses outside, blue light glasses inside, or night driving lenses in the dark, Zenni has affordable eyewear for everyone at Zenni.com.
Welcome back, everyone. The Speed Chess Championship continues. Jan Nepomniachtchi, Anish Giri. Eric, we saw a little bit of a momentum shift right in the middle of that 5-minute segment. It's the halfway point. We're now rejoining with more 5-minute chess ahead, but a lead for Jan Nepomniachtchi and hopefully some adjustments for Anish because, Eric, you know, you can't just keep getting in that massive time deficit against Jan, who plays that quick.
For sure. We're seeing the best of Jan right now. Like, he does so well in those positions. And I think everyone knows you let him get going. This is how he won 2 candidates tournaments. He thrives in that. And you have to find a way to slow down the match, frustrate Nepomniachtchi. And those like the second position, that Catalan was a good example of that. But right now, Nepomniachtchi is just really feeling it. And Anish is a very well-rounded player. You know, he has a very wide repertoire, and, you know, during the break, it wouldn't surprise me at all for him to cook up something new, and definitely avoid, as I said, some of those really sharp positions. I think his mentality is, I'll go into it if I'm really well prepared. We saw that in that PSAC game, but otherwise unnecessary because he can feel the pace from Nepomniachtchi. The speed of Nepomniachtchi, when he's playing like that, people can't really match it. Like, Anish isn't playing super slow like maybe Ding a couple days ago. He's a quick player, but in the world of chess, Nepo really is one of the fastest, and you can calculate at crazy speeds. So you're not necessarily looking to match that 1-for-1, but you certainly need the positions where you can be quite competitive in that aspect and take away these games where they get sharp. He just feeds off of that and thinks on your time and just slams out a strong response right away.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult to match that. Something interesting that's happened is actually we haven't got a full repeat of that variation, Eric. We remember with the very imbalanced position and the piece sacrifice, but it was actually Jan who didn't go into it. And this is actually something common that happens because Jan probably knows that that's the first thing that Giri went to double check in the break is let me have a look at that crazy line again. And then of course you come back ready to play it and Jan says, no, let's just play something else.
Yeah, no, they both mixing things up here. We saw this G5 maneuver in other matches. It's very typical to challenge this dark squared bishop. It's double-edged. When your bishop goes to G3, you've provoked G5, so maybe Black's kingside is a bit weaker, but your bishop is now outside of the game a little bit. So for example, we look in the center, that D4 pawn that Black's putting pressure, your dark squared bishop for white can no longer support that. And you don't really want to play D5. So there's going to be a huge battle around this D4, E5 square. Black would love for white to resolve the tension there and open up that diagonal. White does not want to do that. White wants to keep that pawn here or win the E5 pawn. But without that dark squared bishop, sometimes you see moves like Queen F6 come into play, putting additional pressure on D4. So we're just going to really pay attention there. Sharp position, but for sure something both players are very familiar with.
Yeah, you can see the blue arrow there. That's the top engine recommendation in position, and the question mark attributed to knight d2. So g4 is the move to look at, and I'm guessing after knight to h4, you have that option. First of all, the pawn on d4 is just going to be hanging at that point, but there's also an idea maybe to slide the knight from h5 into the f4 square, and the knight on h4 could be a little bit loose there in that case.
Yeah, lots of options here. Black maybe wants to attack on the king side. If not, maybe you look to pick up that d4 pawn. Tons of choices. I've seen a move like queen g5 before to preface, to prepare things. Then maybe knight f4, maybe knight g3. Just get the queen off the back rank, a safe square. Can't get harassed easily there. But I'm curious, yeah, what happens if you take on d4? What happens if you play knight f4?
Yeah, it all looks so tempting. I have to say, I end up
like
leaning.
Black's position.
Yeah, I lean more towards moves other than e takes d4, just because the position looks so good as it is. But the reality is that there is a pawn just sitting there in the middle. I would lean more towards queen g5 though.
Just to show on the board, after e takes d4, sometimes there's this idea of pawn to e5. This bishop is pinning the pawn. The queen on d3 slides over to g6. That's a tactical shot, which is one of the things that Black is worried about when they take on d4. So you see queen g5, knight f5 played right away.
Yeah, and knight f5, I mean, obviously bishop takes f5 is being yelled for here, but it needs a follow-up, because that actually just brings the knight to e4, right? It opens up the e4 square.
Exactly. And I think the idea is probably to take on d4. At some point, you have to take on d4 and open up your dark squared bishop. You can't allow white to leave it hanging the entire time. Part of the counterplay is your counterplay on d4. If all your pieces are targeting it and you choose not to take it, that makes things a lot easier for white. A common idea for white, you put the knight on f5, that's good. You want to move your king over to h1 so you're not pinned on the f file, maybe open up the f file. We have the moves, bishop f5 taking on d4, and at first glance, favors Black to me. Like if I can take that pawn, I know I'm supposed to. Knight e4 you'd like to play, but queen takes f5. I don't see any really good discovered attacks on the queen. So Anish is calculating. He's got his hands on his forehead here. Because yeah, if you take on d4, Black maybe can take with a knight, target the bishop, bring more pieces towards the middle of the board. And things are clearing up at some point. You're down a pawn, you need to prove you have compensation for that.
That's right. Yeah, and also the b pawn is not really one that you want to capture on b5. You can't anymore, but there would be some nasty discovered checks with that bishop on b6. Bishop back to c2 now, and if you take on c3, I guess you're not even going to take it back, Eric. You have other ideas, right?
No, you have knight f6 with queen h7 mating ideas.
That's beautiful.
Maybe rook e6 here, or some solid move. Very sharp once again. But as I said, Anish is okay playing sharp positions that he's familiar with or he knows are objectively good. And here, I think objectively, Black is doing well. That is a pawn. You have to make sure you don't get mated. That's the main problem here. And okay, D5. Whoa. Queen takes B5 immediately. There's a pin along the 5th here.
That is a
miss
really
that?
sketchy move, Eric. What is happening? There's
So
bishop
now,
F2, right?
Bishop
so this is the
F2,
obvious
there's rook
threat.
F2 stuff to calculate. Both
Mhm.
queens are hanging, right? So if you take on D3, Bishop F2, Rook takes F2.
What is there? 3 pieces hanging in this position, plus a
Yeah,
4th
that's
if
a
you
lot
count
to-
the queen on B5.
I have to think that's okay for White, and it, it doesn't help. The eval bar is telling me it's probably okay, but that's a critical move. You take with the queen, you do lose the knight on E4, which is unacceptable.
Right.
Is there something else that we're missing? Obviously, there's queen takes C6.
Is there bishop takes D3 and then knight takes on F2, unleashing the bishop on the queen on F5?
That's very clean. Even the other lines look clean. Bishop takes F2, knight, exactly, Amon. Bishop takes F2, knight takes F2. The queen's being targeted.
It's a complete mess.
Knight takes G3, getting rid of the dark squared bishop. That takes away some of the attacking chances for White against that maybe somewhat loose Black king. And now,
Yeah,
what are
and
we
knight
looking
takes
at?
G3 wasn't possible, right? If the white knight went back to G3, then you could probably, I guess maybe it was playable, but I was thinking there was something like rook takes on E1 or takes
Or
on
bishop
F2.
takes F2, yeah.
Mhm.
I'm wondering what happens after knight E5 here. Are there really good discoveries? There probably are. Maybe there's knight D3 after knight E5. Super sharp. And, well, just being down a minute here for Giri does not bode well unless the board clears a bit more because there's just so much going on.
So if you put,
Anish,
if you put something like knight E5 on the board, we're also dealing with the dangers of like knight F6 because it's blocked. But knight
yeah,
D6,
knight D6,
ooh.
and all of a sudden the rook hangs at the end of that. So I
Yeah.
don't think knight E5
Eric,
might
this is
have
on the
an
board
issue.
as well.
Okay, so knight D6 is what I was worried about. Maybe I'm missing something here. There's so much to calculate. But knight D6, a full rook is hanging if you liquidate on D3.
So what's the live position? Is knight D6 played? Because he's thinking right now. It's Giri's turn.
Knight C5 was played. Knight C5 was played. Did I miss something? Anyways, Anish down. Well, I said Anish
He's
down.
down.
He
He's
just
fully
flagged.
down. That's a guy that needs to just take a breather. He actually did just pause and take a breath because the time situation, Eric, is becoming not acceptable, and I think he's realizing it.
I had the same problem as Anish. I was analyzing the position, and then all of a sudden his clock went down. He was analyzing it too. I've had concerns this entire match. These very sharp positions. You go down on the clock against Nepo. He keeps playing quickly. He finds pretty strong moves. Not the best moves always. He doesn't even look for that. But if you try to play perfect against him, he punishes that, just practically. And all of a sudden, it's just, that's a third straight win for Jan. Maybe Giri has to, again, rethink some of the positions, but I like this position there. Even though it's sharp, he's got to be confident he can go toe-to-toe in positions that he's choosing. You need your confidence. Confidence is so key. But he has these moments. He takes like 30 to 60 seconds. A couple of those moments occur when Nepomniachtchi's playing 5-10 seconds a move, consistently down a minute as a result. And when that happens, that's when Nepomniachtchi unleashes these sharp positions where then you actually have to take 30 to 60 seconds. But because you're down on the clock, it's too late.
Yeah, exactly. You just don't have time to handle the complicated position anymore. And what happens is Anish he almost looks for the true answer in the position way too often. Whereas,
Rook
look
C6.
at this.
This is a move I think a long-time second of Anish would play. Erwin Lamy, a strong Dutch Grandmaster, loves to sack the exchange at any moment. And this looks like a great opportunity to do so. Objectively, fine for black. Practically, though, white has lots of compensation. We have an imbalance, but it's not the most fun imbalance for black. Black's up material. Often, Nepomniachtchi likes to sack, he likes to attack. Here, white's playing positionally, keeping the pieces on the board, probably keeping a knight on c4. Eventually wants to target c6 and the double c pawns. I'm not sure if knight a5 was a little too hasty. I guess it depends. You got to calculate knight c6 and the trades over here. But I like the energy behind that. Right?
Because yeah, you can play knight c6 and just leave it there, right? Knight c6, even trade the queens here and just play this position with rook d1 or rook b1 because the knight on c6 is covering b8, it's covering d8. Those are the only two completely open files in the position, and that means that the black rooks are incredibly ineffective here.
They're very ineffective. The knight on c6 is worth a lot, covering the b file, and it's important to note this a4 pawn might go to a5, fixing this on a6. Maybe you place your bishop on f1. Long term, you just target this, keep a rook stuck on a8, and the value of white's pieces are favorable compared to black's. The rooks are passive. The rook can go to b7. Bishop can go here. Well, yeah, rook c7 is an idea. I think Nepo would be preparing knight c5, willing to sacrifice a pawn for exchanges. Black would love to trade off here, because the two rooks don't have steady squares. So even at the cost of a pawn, if you can free up your rooks, you look to do that. White's job, don't allow that whatsoever. Keep milking the position, improve your knight on f3, improve your bishop on g2, maintain the tension.
And that's why we see knight b8. If you play knight d4, knight f to d4, to try to support the knight, I think we're going to see the bishop exchange for the knight on d4 rather than the knight taking on c6. Because if two knights disappear from this position, that's much different.
Absolutely. So as white, I don't want to trade. I'm looking at knight b4. It looks funny. It frees up the c pawn. I might have to do that. That might be wrong, but I'd say knight b8 is just a great move by Nepomniachtchi.
Yeah, I was going to say you can play rook c1. Yeah, you get a trade here, and the knight does not replace on c6. So now the black rooks are active. You could maybe trade the knights and play rook e6, sack the c-pawn, and then activate your other rook with rook b8, for example.
Maybe bishop d8 here. If you play rook c5, try to find a way to get a second piece on there. Okay, rook b8. Anyways, sacking a pawn to get an easier play position for black makes so much sense. Anish is still playing this well, but as I said, objectively, it wasn't a winning or really good piece sack. It was fine. It was supposed to pose you when you sacrifice that exchange, it's to pose problems, make things uncomfortable for your opponent. And right now, Nepo's doing a really good job of saying, I can handle it.
Yeah, completely. White would almost want to play like bishop d5, knight c4, maybe pawn to e4, and just kind of wedge all those pieces in the center of the board. But
I like it.
It's not that easy to accomplish, and I constantly find myself looking at the move rook b5 and just trying to evaluate that properly.
Yeah, if you give me some time as black, I want rook b5. There's back rank issues, so maybe I want to play g6, h5, put my king on a dark square, king g7. The a5 pawn does a good job of keeping a6, but it's on a dark square, so the rook always has to maintain coverage of it. Okay, rook here. I wonder if you can get away with playing bishop f1 and placing a rook on d5 and finding some stability there. It's tough to say, but even in a hard position, black is up a minute.
Yep.
You know, usually when you sack the exchange, you want to be up on the clock. You want to be the one saying, I have the easier to play position.
Yeah, the knight can also swing knight c4, knight e5, knight c6. And
Rook
here's the rook
d5.
d5 move that you were talking about.
Got to keep the pieces on the board. Rook d5, and you have to play that quickly.
Yeah, it's a must do. Taking. Okay,
so
he's going for the full draw.
Indicates that he's not playing for a win.
Right.
And the only thing you can't afford is to lose this game because you're choosing to go in an endgame. You're like, yeah, this should be fine. It wasn't forced.
Yeah,
don't
I thought
wanna
rook
move this
d5
knight.
was reasonable.
You gotta be careful moving this knight. There's a bishop e1 idea catching you from behind.
King f1 just as a starter move, and then shuffle the opposite bishops.
Probably g6 at some point. Bring the king to f6, play g5, try to destabilize this knight. Black's winning idea is to find a way to overwhelm the f2 pawn. Easier said than done, but you're not going to win by trading off all the pawns. That's not how you win up the exchange. You need to maintain some pawns and try to win the base, which is f2.
Okay, finally we see a knight move. It basically couldn't move previously, but the pieces are going to get bothered here. I'm expecting rook d2 to get played at some point.
Yeah, rook d2. The thing is, white bishop has quite a few squares that you can attack the bishop. It can maintain the diagonal, and there's no way to cut off all those squares. You also don't want to place your king on f3 in some positions because you might get checkmated. You got to be very careful. You'd love to walk your king in and win f2 or mate, but some concerns there.
And also, the knight is being placed on e2 by Anish on purpose. He wants to take control of the move pawn f5 to f4.
Absolutely, and it's important to note knight's on e2 and you have a light squared bishop. Black has a rook. A rook on its own without this dark squared bishop can't overwhelm those pieces. So white is playing on the light squares, recognizing that the rook can't separate the bishop and the knight, and you have the king as an additional defender. This dark squared bishop, not in the game right now, and it's not easy for it to make an impact. If you can't get that bishop in the game, you can't play this for a win.
Yep, and if if king e4 were to happen here, because there's no bishop d5 or anything, just remember, as soon as the king goes to f3, suddenly there is that check.
So this is very good handling by Giri, not changing the setup, recognizing this setup holds the game. Well, as soon as I say that, he played bishop e6. and now Nepomniachtchi plays rook c2 to take away temporarily that bishop from the diagonal. But these are just harassing moves from Giri, just shuffling, moving around, keeping the king honest on g6. But as the setup from Giri looks good to me, Aman.
Yeah, it does look good. The knight on e2 and realizing that he has it under control. Having said that, he changes everything, which I'm not sure he had to do that, although maybe he's just found another fortress.
Again, I prefer the other setup because what I said is Black's dark squared bishop wasn't in the game. All of a sudden, when you trade the e-pawn, this bishop, this dark squared bishop, could put a little bit of pressure on f2. I don't think it's enough. I think this is still a draw, but Jan will try to play a few more moves here and pressure. But this setup, knight on h3, bishop on f3, maybe everything's all protected. There's no entry squares. Again, though, psychologically, this is a case. Nepomniachtchi's won 3 games in a row, and with Black, he's the one tickling. He's the one pressuring. It's most likely going to be a draw. That's a good result. That's a good result for Nepomniachtchi.
And the game is also taking an incredibly long time, right? This is basically a 5+1 game that I'm sure has now taken more than 10, 12 minutes. And it's still going with no end in sight.
Yeah. No, might as well. Might as well. Like when you sack the exchange that like Anish did, you do that to play for a win. And now you're here shuffling for a few minutes. And sometimes those thoughts creep up. Like
time is getting low, Eric, and I'm seeing bishop b6 and king e1, so he's going to change the position again.
Okay. Still a draw, but the setup is no longer solid. Everything's traded off. It's opening up.
Yeah, you can't say that this is just easy anymore. You can't just shuffle pieces. Suddenly you're playing a pretty open game.
If you take here, and then there's bishop g3. Good find. King takes f4. There's knight e6. So good catch by Anish there. Again, if you trade everything off, bishop and pawn versus rook, that's a draw. Bishop a5, planning bishop e1 check. If you move the knight, you lose your bishop.
He's finding something.
Oh, he's
it's
finding
very
something.
Difficult to react to.
Almost a mating net. Not quite. Maybe is. Oh, there's something wrong here, Amon. There's something wrong
Amazingly,
here.
it's
Can you
a
can you
table-based
put that
win is
king in a
being called for.
mating net? This king on h3 is not comfortable.
No.
We're getting close to a mating net here.
I mean, this is a well-earned victory. Remember,
King
Anish
h5.
decided to play for draw only earlier in the game, and if he's not
Move the
earning
bishop,
it, that
move the
that
bishop.
decision is going to haunt him.
White can hardly move. You can only shuffle the bishop back and forth. Try to get the rook on the h file. Get the rook on the h file, Mon. Oh my goodness. That's going to be it. You get
What
the
do you
rook
do
to the
about
h
this?
file and you play king g5 and you just win this knight.
I don't see anything.
You just win the knight. This is... Wow.
I don't think you could have stopped it. Another win for Jan Nepomniachtchi, Eric. He extends the lead, and he's also just such a practical player that he knew he wasn't maybe supposed to win that position many times, but Giri kept changing the complexion. He kept changing the fortress, and every time Jan just said, okay, sure, let's play this one now, and I got another 50 moves for you.
Yeah, I mean, we have to question, why did Anish even play some of those moves? Like, didn't he have a setup? Was he just frustrated at playing the back and forth?
Yeah, and it's hard to think of the different moments because he did have a setup, Eric, but at the same time, I got to give credit to Jan Nepomniachtchi for always finding a way through. He always made it look like he had enough of a threat that Giri felt the need to change his setup again.
Yeah, and we're talking about maybe doubt creeping in because of the match situation. Normally speaking, he would repeat, but just the way things have been going, maybe there's just some feeling like I keep repeating, the setup, maybe it doesn't work, so I need to play something more forceful. Some, a lack of patience there from Anish, which isn't too characteristic, I'd say.
Yeah, bishop d5 in this game here. And remember, Jan is also doing that with the black pieces. So now he's got the white pieces in this one and a chance to extend the lead again. It's quite possible, unless we see a quick draw, Eric, that this is going to be the final game of the 5+1 portion. And it's completely opened up here.
It's completely opened up, and for one side, even the position we have in front of us, I like this for Jan. It's going to be pretty open. You see black sack a pawn for some activity, mess up white's pawn structure, but yeah, heading into this is the final game, probably the 5-1 portion. The bleeding has to stop, and typically, I'd say Anish is more of a player with black, even if you're losing. Draw with black, stabilize, then push with white. He's very, very good with the white pieces, very strong theoretician. But again, we talk about these speed chess matches, Amon. You need to win the matches. It's not just about winning your good positions. You need to pull out some wins from those bad positions, those positions where you're behind. Nepo's done that, but yeah, you can't just expect good positions and to coast off of that. And that's already the situation. He's behind by quite a bit. That it's not enough to just play solid. There's going to have to be some more risks taken here for Giri.
Yeah, and I think at this point, it's fair to say that he's not going to solve these problems right now. He's not going to solve them in the 5-minute portion. So it's really just about making it through this game, getting to the break, and changing something for the next section, which is the 3+1, because he's just not going to be able to adjust that quickly. We've seen what the 5-minute segment has looked like.
We have, and I think the predictions before the match or the smarter chess ones. I mean, I had Giri as a sizable favorite, but as I said, like these two guys fight, and Nepo might be extra motivated. And he's shown a high level before, so on a good day he can run up the score. This position in particular is an element of risk for Giri. If you lose the knight on e4, if it vacates, as white, I want to play knight a3, knight b5, and just jump in and attack c7 and a7. That c6 pawn, it's loose. These are doubled pawns, but there's no pressure on them right now to compensation for black is development. Giri needs to maintain that lead in development because that's the comp. Oh, look at that. Knight d5 is coming. Then you have rook takes
yeah,
c4, knight f6 ideas.
that's a problem.
This c6 pawn is a concern. It facilitates some tactics for
It's something that you
Nepomniachtchi.
underestimate because you see it and you're like, oh, okay, it's double pawn. I'll take it later. But then you don't take it, and then you don't take it, and then all of a sudden it's affecting some of the calculations, and you realize it's a nuisance.
Yeah, I think in this game Anish was playing naturally. He's like, I'm gonna play faster, which means natural moves. You play natural moves, you're like, that pawn I'm gonna pick up eventually. And as you mentioned, time is of the essence now. Sorry, I've made the wrong square. Like, Nepomniachtchi needs to complete development. Knight a3 is what I've been targeting. I'd love to get the knight to b5.
Right. And the rook is stuck, right? It's guarding the knight on e4, so it can't quite take on c6. But if you take on c7, then you allow rook takes c6 to happen. So I think that's why Jan should instead just develop his last piece.
I see in line, I'm on knight a3. You try to win that pawn by force, rook d6, just knight b5. And then there's a fork on d4, forking the rooks. So we're close to a situation where it's too late to win that pawn. You can't go rook d6 because of knight e8 check. This was a concern from the get-go. White is up 2 pawns, almost fully developed. Giri is in a serious
position here.
hole right now. I might even be able to extract my knight to a8 Amon. If that's the only square, I can transfer it to b6.
Yeah. Who would have thought that you bring your knight out by bringing it in first to a8 and then escaping to b6? The knight on a3, not very good either, so being repositioned. It can go to b4 and, attack the a pawn, but also e3 is a fantastic central square, and you can just bring the rook in. Rook
goodness.
d1.
No.
No.
That he's gonna see that every day of the week. Disaster.
Yeah, you can tell he's just needs the segment to be over for the adjustments to be made. As I pointed out, it's not going to be fixed right now. And as you pointed out, Eric, rook d6, knight e8 check wins the rook. But Giri just so caught up in the position and the momentum is swinging against him. He's just missing the basics now.
Yeah, no, it's even for the most solid, stable players. Tilt is possible. Frustration is almost guaranteed. And my prediction is looking. I don't know if I jinxed it. I said, we're not going to have some lopsided scores like the Ding Hans match, but for this caliber of a match, this is more than lopsided.
Yeah, it is. Currently looking at something very, very similar. But there's another game, right? That's the thing. Because that game ended with an immediate blunder and just a resignation, there's another 5-minute game. I don't know if that's actually something that Anish wanted, Eric. Maybe some gamesmanship. Might want to let the time just expire next time instead.
Yeah, it's hard to say because that would be a shift in mentality, right? Heading into the match, he probably was looking forward to the 5-1 portion. And it's just so hard to make those mid-game adjustments. This format is so punishing. It's different than you play one set at this hour, you get a break for an hour, you play another set. No, these adjustments have to be made pretty much on the fly. And we see so many matches where there's just no time. The players on that day, once they get uncomfortable, the match just rides with that momentum. Here, I like this opening choice from Anish. Typically, not big advantages are had here. A small push, maybe with the bishop, with the minority attack. Not a lot of risk here. The problem is, Nepo has confidence playing these positions right now. He has defended successfully. He's gone toe-to-toe, held these positions long enough that they've gone into deep waters, and then his time management pays off.
Yeah, and if
everything gets straight off
here,
oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
We're about to say the exact same thing. I think that it's not something that I can really see Giri winning with all these trades. And if anything, there's probably going to be a passed C pawn on the outside here for Jan. So yeah, it just doesn't look like much.
I mean, to go further in your point, if everything trades off and you just have the c-pawn, queen and knight versus queen and bishop, I think that's equal, and maybe white is more than fine, even slightly better, because you could say it's a weak pawn and a bishop is good in a somewhat open position. But we're talking about Nepomniachtchi here. He's very tricky with his knights. So stabilize, play queen f6, g6, put the king on a dark square. And at some point, if you can ever push your pawn to c5, you'd like to do it, so it's no longer a target for the white bishop. Queen e6 is more offering like headed towards a drawn endgame. But I was going to say, if Anish were to try to overpress this position, bad things could happen as well. This isn't a position that's worth it for him to take extra risk.
No, not at all. The match clock has hit 0, by the way. So this is officially going to be the final game of the 5+1 segment before we take a break. And it's such an important one because even just having this game be a draw, I think would be good news for Anish, because he's got to stop the momentum.
Yeah, and it 100% should be a draw. You can only kick yourself if something happens. Just look at the position. Black setup, the knight defending the pawn, queen defending the pawn, 2 pieces defending. White has potential to attack with 2 pieces, and then you just have kings. So realistically, there is no way to win something. That c-pawn is not a weakness. And so I'm just saying, like, there's no reason to try to play this for a win.
Yeah, and I think bishop takes knight is almost I think that's the icing on the cake there. It now, I think, is quite equal, even though you could say, oh, that's an isolated pawn. You know, white has the piece in front. There's queens on the board. This is probably a draw without the d pawn at all. So I think it will be.
Yeah, I mean, isolated pawn, but you can't get more attackers on it. So, you know, maybe they see the principle of 2 weaknesses. That's just 1 weakness for black, and that's more than enough to hold.
And Jan Nepomniachtchi is very, very happy with his 5+1 segment here in the Speed Chess Championship against Anish Giri. Because Eric, going into the 3+1, Anish has a lot of work to do. We were not expecting the first segment of this match to be so lopsided. Maybe the final score, you know, if someone runs up the bullet, but for it to happen so early on is concerning for Anish.
Super concerning. This was a segment a lot of people had him as a favorite in. Started off, he was the one pressing, and things can just switch. It got flipped right away, and the quality, we have to give a lot of credit to Nepomniachtchi. Bit of a volatile player, sharp player, but when he's on his A game, he's capable of doing this to many of the top players of the world. He's seeing everything, not giving counterplay. Nepomniachtchi blunders sometimes. Have you spotted any blunders today?
No, he's had slight inaccuracies, but that's converting his winning positions, and he still doesn't ever end up anything but equal, right? Yep. So this has been a true masterclass. It is, you know, as good a match as any. And speaking of Zenny, they are the official eyewear partner of Chess.com. Whether you need prescription glasses, sunglasses, or blue light protection, Zenny's the perfect fit for you. You can explore hundreds of styles, a range of shapes, materials, colors, and try them on at home with Zenny's virtual try-on feature. So look no further for your perfect pair of glasses. Through October 31st, save 15% off your purchase with code SCC15 and use !Zenny in chat to claim your offer. Eric, we are going to take a break before we come back with the 3+1 in this SCC matchup between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Anish Giri.
For the first time in esports World Cup history, the absolute best chess players in the world.
EWC is the biggest tournament in my calendar this year.
The 2 highest rated chess players in the world battling it out at EWC.
It's always fun to see Magnus act like a little child when he loses a game, instead of accepting defeat humbly.
I want to win everything that's in front of me. GG! I got my bow and arrow ready. I've shot one falcon. I want to shoot one more.
Magnus Carlsen takes the victory, world #1, and now esports World Cup champion.
It's been unlike anything that I've seen. I really hope that this is a big part of the future.
Starting battle.
Welcome back to Chess. Chess is modernizing chess by infusing the timeless game with an innovative spell mechanic. Players can compete against each other, participate in tournaments, and craft their own spells to battle and climb the ranks. All classical chess rules apply, but can be overridden by spell mechanics.
Invisible march. Strategic.
The knight on h6 used Shot in the Dark, moving it invisibly for one turn. And meanwhile, White used House Recruit to spawn a pawn.
Clear the ground with a single bound.
White uses Bishop 2.0, launching the bishop over a pawn to capture.
Invisible march. Strategic arch.
Shot in the Dark allows Black to win by Kingsley. Push your chess limits. Try spell chess in the Chess Open Alpha.
I played his line with Karakan, then I had some idea against it, and he got very unpleasant position quite quickly. And eventually I managed to win without even letting him a lot of counterplay, so that was quite nice.
So far it's good. I have 5 points out of 7, so at least I'm not losing any elo points. But it's good. Well, we'll see what happens in the last 3 rounds.
So what did you think of the tour?
It was really amazing. I'm pretty excited because it's Iceland and it's really good to be here. I love it.
It was quite spectacular. I mean, especially the geysers and some waterfalls. It was very spectacular in nature, of course.
We met in Reggio and yeah, everything started from there. Yeah, I live in Georgia, but we play some tournaments together and we try as much as possible to see each other. I hope from next year it will be more often.
I met my wife when I was just 17. We married when I was 21 and I had my first child quite early as well. And we have 2 more kids. You know, both me and my wife, we come from a family of 3 children. So I guess for most people, the kind of family you grew up in is also what you sort of project to be the norm. And maybe like this is one of the reasons why, you know, both me and my wife, we also have 3 kids right now. It really is only possible for me to like combine professional career with having family if you have like enormous support from elsewhere. I don't think like one person can manage to be like super involved with the family and also be a top professional at a sport. That's very hard. So in our family, like my wife does really a lot, and also our families do a lot as well to help.
There are a lot of moments in life where you need support, and luckily we do understand that and we do support each other.
I mean, it's very nice, like when it's in this setting, it looks all very organized, everybody's sitting, and you know, it's like we have 3 children, they're all very well behaving and sitting on one place all the time. If it was always like that, it would be really easy. No, it's quite chaotic at times, of course, but you know, a lot of fun. And I imagine us back when we had only 1 child, to have 3 right away, we'd probably go nuts immediately. But you know, gradually upping the level of difficulty, we were able to handle it.
Everybody has days where they just don't feel up for it. You look in the mirror and you're not your full self. Neurogum, energy and focus. I know a guy who uses the gum to help get ready for his day. And it tastes good. That's the energy and focus this guy needs to go bring smiles to the faces of chess pieces everywhere. There he is. That's my guy. Always forward, never back. Neurogum, helping little pawns feel big since 2015.
Oh my god.
No, but Hikaru, he has 15 more seconds. He needs to bleed. And Hikaru with Rook A2.
Now Magnus Carlsen is the reigning Grandmaster Blitz Battle champion.
Yep.
It all came down to one man, Magnus Carlsen, who won Eric.
The game's over. They just drew, so should be joined with them anything.
They draw by mutual agreement. Oh, look at this stalemate trick with 95.
96.
Another year where Hikaru Nakamura takes down.
And Hikaru Nakamura, he wins the Speed Chess Championship. Hikaru recognizes it. He wins the Speed Chess Championship. Magnus gives a little bit clap for Hikaru Nakamura. Oh my gosh, I'm on. Hikaru had the first mate, and it's a draw by agreement. Magnus has won.
And he's won.
SCC is over. Magnus Carlsen claims the SCC title for the second year in a row.
Well, Eric, I think my favorite part about that video is that it started with commentary side by side, and then all of a sudden it got virtual, and then it ended 2024 with commentary back side by side, live finals. That's exactly what we had upcoming for this SCC as well. We have the current matchup. It's Anish, it's Jan, and honestly, Eric, it is really one-sided so far as we take a look at the scoreboard, 6.5 to 1.5.
Didn't expect this. Didn't expect this. Something has to change immediately. Anish Giri, not normally a player, you think about being down a large deficit, but I know he's had a couple SCC matches where he has picked up the pace. So I know there's been a couple comeback attempts, and certainly I'm expecting some serious adjustments here.
Yeah, I immediately see the opening is something somewhat familiar, so not going completely crazy just yet. I think it's fair that a deficit like this is not something to panic about and go all out and think you need to just play gambits from now on. Actually, that might just play into Jan's hands. So instead, it's kind of tough, Eric, a little bit when your style is a bit more technical. When you do get behind in a match, you don't always have the tools to make it a crazy and more tactical game to make that comeback.
And I wouldn't recommend it. I think if I'm in Giri's shoes, you're down by 5. That's not too much. There's plenty of time. Slow down. And I don't mean on the clock. On the clock, you got to play faster, but I still prefer some of those slower positions. Feels like, when you're behind, you want to force the issue sometimes. That might be playing into Nepomniachtchi's strengths. Some of those sharp positions, all you need is a win. It doesn't have to be the cleanest win. It doesn't have to be, this beautiful attack. Anything will do to get the, confidence and momentum back. And he's got to play to his strengths. Now, that doesn't begin with black, I would say, in the sense don't expect Giri to especially at this stage of the match, there's plenty of time to vary things up or play sharp with black. Mm-hmm. With white, still his opportunity to maneuver around and build up something, and then just clean up the clock. There's just been too many easy wins for Nepomniachtchi when his clock has gone down. So play faster, but I still prefer the slower positions. Here I guess we do have a pretty slow position. We're pretty standard in these E45 lines, but I'm a little concerned. Whenever I see that knight for white invade and Nepo, he's so quick to spot forks and tactical ideas. There's an element of danger. True. I'm just not sure the point of this move I'm on. If you play C6, Knight F4, there's Rook D6, right?
Yeah.
So is Queen A2? Yeah, Rook D6 is fine as well, but I don't think that made the impact that Nepomniachtchi was looking for.
Yeah, Queen C4. You always have Knight E3 to guard the Rook on D1, and I think it almost feels like the achievement is kind of in Anish's favor. I like that the knight on c5 is secure. It's hitting the A pawn and the E pawn, two points of contact that need permanent defense. And then really all that's left is activate your queen and then bring the rook to d8, and then you're completely fine.
You are, but at least there's an element of imbalance here. The knight on c5 is secure, as you mentioned, but by playing b6, white's knight on d5 is secure as well. c6 can always be traded, so white can use this d5 square for the rest of the game. And that means probably keeping pieces on the board, because in an endgame, you're right, the knight on c5, if the queens are off, it would target a4, but black wins it, outside pass pawn, great for black. White's job is to keep the pieces on the board as is and work around this d5 square. So you see rook d5, gaining space, getting the d file, that's good. But you've all these pieces that want d5. Only one can be placed there, which means other pieces need to find other squares. Maybe this knight on e3 eventually goes to f3 to target e5. Maybe in some positions you sacrifice the exchange. That's an idea as well, to get a knight and a pawn, and you're going to place your own knight on d5. The exchange sacrifice cannot be underestimated here if Nepo's really feeling it, and Nepomniachtchi, he wants to force things.
I like it even rook takes c5 and trading the queen on e6 and playing knight c4. In a lot of cases, even that might be an idea, let alone taking back on c5 and playing knight d5, as you said. So there's a lot of... it's been played. There you go.
I love it. I love it. This is a good exchange sack. It's very clear where your pieces are going, and I don't feel a lot of risk for white because king is safe, knight has a future. Anish, well, this is a huge game for him to defend. He's got to make sure white doesn't get those queenside pawns rolling.
Yeah, queen d6 is definitely the right response. I mean, you can take and play knight d5 to defend your c pawn, but then suddenly you just have to think about rook c4 just in the right moment. Rook c4.
It's a sharp line. I don't know if it works or not, but it's critical.
Yeah, because now you've got the b pawn disconnected in those cases. So there's a lot of thought that really goes into playing queen takes on d6 here. It's not a decision you can make lightly.
You could play queen d5 as well. It's a funny move, but my idea was like, if you take with the knight, then c6 is met by knight e7.
Yeah, queen c4. There's c6 in the position.
C6 you'd love to play because the value of the exchange is determined by that rook.
I don't know about this, Eric. I'm not liking this passive play, rook d8, d7.
I agree, and I thought the same thing. Then Anish played f5, and I realized the rook has double duty. It's defending on c7, defending c7 actively, as opposed to c8. And now the f file's opened up. Maybe the queen and the rook can coordinate. Oh, queen a3, great find.
I think
so. This might have been a really nice maneuver from Anish.
Yep. Oh, he's going down to sea level here. This is not good for Jan Nepomniachtchi. You can see the engine is
mating ideas here. Probably queen b2 and rook here. There's queen e2 mate. But you have to make sure you don't lose all your pawns and give an escape square for white's king. So rook f2, you have to calculate queen c7, maybe queen takes c5. No mistake. Anish has to win this position.
I wonder about queen g1 as well. Queen a1 is a curious move.
Very curious. He's planning king d3, queen b1 to take on e4. Maybe that's a great find. King d3, queen b1, and then you win e4.
7 seconds. This sets the tone in the 3+1 segment.
I think this is good for Giri. He's going to pick up the center pawn, and the compensation is disappearing. Now you can check. You can bring your rook to d7. There's no more d5 square.
Yep. That is it. And Anish Giri gets on the board to start the 3+1 segment. And Eric, that win could not have come at a better time for the mental, and also just looking at that game, it looked like a great practical sacrifice of the exchange by Nepomniachtchi. But I got to give even more credit to Giri for reacting well to it, because that looked difficult to play.
Yeah, we liked that decision for Nepomniachtchi, and I was favoring his chances. I was like, and it only took 2 or 3 moves for Giri to flip that position around. Really good understanding, and that's a huge confidence builder, because that was like a sharp position. That was Nepo putting the pressure on, like sacking the exchange, had all the space, and in a moment, 2-3 moves, Giri activated the rook and showed really, really good handling, and all of a sudden, it's too early to say we have a close match, but that's a pretty, like, sorry, I gotta think about it. Is that the first win for Anish this match? Was it 3 draws? It was, right?
Yeah, it was, because it started with 2 draws to bring us to 1 point, and then, yeah, 1 more draw after that, and that was the first win.
First win after, let's say, more than an hour. You can be in a dark place when you play an hour of chess and don't win a single game. So this couldn't have, as you said, come at a better time for Giri, and he's got white, has some confidence, has these slow positions that I'm in favor of. There's not a lot happening here. It's not that dangerous for black. White maybe has ideas in the future of playing rook e1, playing for either f3 and e4 to build the center, or the minority attack. You try to eventually play b4. Slow position,
waiting for
but good
h5.
timing.
I'm waiting because Jan is also that kind of player. There it is, h5, h4. This is exactly how he. Well, first of all, I think it's how the position should be played, but it also suits him perfectly.
For sure. If white is demonstrating, I want to push on the queen side, black's response, your pieces are on the queen side, let's harass the king side, h5, maybe h4, or grab some squares there, because you don't want it to be a one-way street. Nepomniachtchi is an active defender. Not going to just sit back and allow Anish to play b4 and put pressure on b7. He wants to put pressure on the king side. And knight g4, installing that knight. That's why h4, h5, it's a trade of squares, but this knight on g4 is sitting pretty here. And the question is, how can black bring more pieces to facilitate a kingside initiative? Are you looking at g5? Is there a way to play f6, g5? I don't know about f5. That might lock things up, but double-edged. At some point, the position's looking to break open.
Yeah, this looks like a position that I think that Jan is pretty happy with overall. I'm wondering if he's going to trade the bishop for the knight and then move the queen and then try rook e6 to f6.
Exactly.
That's just a nice, simple plan, no risk, and there's a clear threat.
Rook e6, rook f6. I really like that. White's able to defend that, but you have to balance dealing with those threats and maintaining your queenside ambitions. Is knight
There's going to be a
f1
potential sack here.
There is a potential sack, and the queen might jump into g4. Knight e3 in the cards. Sharp.
Very sharp. There's knight e3, there's knight f2, there's rook f6 first, and then a sacrifice. I know that something is going to drop in this position.
Yeah. Oof. c5. Planning to play d4 and break things open.
That's not the move you want to see, Eric. Even if it's not the strongest, that is a really tough move to answer.
The timing of it too, because already almost double the time of whites, and this is such an uncomfortable move. You just don't see it coming. You have to start calculating from scratch. I don't think Anish saw this idea of playing c5, d4. Sometimes you have queen c6 check. This diagonal can open, but fighting for the initiative is Nepomniachtchi here.
And that's the idea. d4, rook d3. It's the queen c6 check that really hurts to get the queen off the d file, and then pawn takes on e3.
You can block with the queen, but your structure gets ruined after d takes e3. Yes, black sacrificed the pawn, but winning the pawn back with the initiative.
And is there rook f6 after queen f3 as well?
Oh my goodness. What a spot I'm on. Rook f6 with the rook takes it.
And that's a natural move. Like, I could see it happening.
You think, the board.
Yeah. Queen f3, rook f6.
And that looks very, very dangerous. Certainly being calculated. Anish is taking too much time. He's down to 10 seconds here.
Okay, we see queen f3
is played. We know Jan is looking at rook f6. He's that kind of
Yeah.
player. Because
The
if you
simple
don't
pawn
play
takes
it,
e3 is available as well, by the
it's
way.
available. Black is totally fine there.
Yeah.
With a minute 30 to 12 seconds, Black has two good options.
Sometimes annoying, right? When you have
Yeah.
two amazing options.
This position, favorable for Black because White's king is weaker. That a-pawn is far away from pushing. g3 is weak. The king is weak. The rooks are ready to join in on the e-file. Don't be surprised to see knight f5, knight g4, knight d5. One of these knight moves followed by the rook coming in on e2. And the problem is Giri's got 11 seconds and his king is about to be hunted.
What's he planning here? Some sort of knight e1 and rook e2 trick.
Rook e2 followed by rook takes d2. It's time for the tactics. Now, knight f3 might be in time for Anish, but 5 seconds, anything can happen here.
Rook e2, rook d1, just trying to hold everything together. He's planning rook e2 now?
Where's the mate? You can check. I don't see. Where is the mate? The king can tuck in on h1. 1.7 seconds for Giri, facing mating ideas.
Even if you just get both of the rooks on the second rank as Black, that has to be winning as well.
I'm just worried about this rook takes e1 idea. I guess you just take here, as you said. Okay.
Yeah.
Rook f to f2. And ooh, Anish is just pushing that pawn.
That looks like a clever idea.
Well, Black has a draw if he wants.
Yeah, takes. And we're getting the same stuff where you bring that rook to a2. Something's going down here. There's no way you can survive this position.
Because Black will pick up the pawn at some moment. You can't play rook e7 because of the back rank.
And
Very
important.
The issue here is Black's up a pawn and looking to win the c5 pawn by force. You see this here? Now you get rook c2. Not in time to defend. That's the second pawn for Jan. And this is tough. The good thing is there's only one passed pawn for Black because the other pawns are fixed. What do you think?
I think, do you just push it all the way here? Pawn to c2 and then just kind of abandon your pawns on the other side of the board. That's what he's going to do. And there's always this trick, pawn to f4, which is really nasty after king takes g6.
Oh, that is such a nice find. Take here,
you just can't take the pawn. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to show that. Well, I'll show that later, but that was really. Anyways, even if that was winning, you don't like to lose on time, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You want it to be played on the board. There's ways that position could end up being a draw if it's misplayed. It's just too conclusive to lose on time. Your opponent didn't have to play that final winning move.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no proving it in that final moment. But to be honest, Jan's someone that with the score we're seeing, the level, the form that we're seeing from this match, that's something we basically expect from him at this point.
I mean, indicative of the match, a bit of momentum for Anish, picks up his first win, and immediately after, Nepomniachtchi strikes back. That's the best way to stop the momentum, stop your opponent's confidence, get them second-guessing things again. And, well, now we have a Berlin. The solid openings are coming out from Anish. The Berlin is typically a drawing weapon, the end game, but you can for sure play it for a win, and these top guys do play it for a win as white because they have to in classical chess. They know opponents are going to play it. So anything is certainly possible, but the feature is, queenless endgame. Double pawns for Black, bishop pair for Black. So even though it's a drawing weapon, there's imbalances and ways for both players to fight for the initiative.
Yeah, and b6, usually the right thing to do with the pawn structure on the queen side, dark square pawns. You have that light square bishop for Black that nobody else has on the board. And yeah, I mean, I think Anish can be reasonably happy here. But the one feature of this position is the rook on h8 is not really a participant because the king, you don't really want to necessarily castle and move away from the endgame. but there's no way to, cross the d file, so to speak, with your king to bring the rook into the action.
Yeah, sometimes you consider when you can to play f6 and put your king on f7 to try to connect or open that up, but you have to be very careful there. Knight g5 already demonstrates that. No time to play f6, and if you have your bishop out of the way, rook takes d8 wins the game with knight takes f7. So
very nice.
Already,
very possible, actually.
Very possible. Already some tricks being demonstrated
Oh,
by
yeah.
Jan.
That hurts.
Okay, stopping checkmate on d8.
Guarding the h3 pawn with that move, but also just the rook on h8, not quite in the game yet. I think that's what Jan is playing for right now.
Yeah, Jan is playing for that. Anish is not in time to play f6 right now. That would just drop a pawn, so can't get the king on a light square on f7. But with more pieces traded off, it's also harder for white to advance here. E5 is not loose because there's the d8 mating threat, but at some point, that's something to look out for. Still, feels like black is okay. If there were more pieces on the board, you'd be more concerned about your rook being out of the game. But here the question is, how can white take advantage of the current situation where the rook is out of the game? What can you do right now?
I guess f4 is being planned, but then Giri is intending knight d4 and bishop c6.
Knight d4, bishop c6, and maybe the knight goes back to e6. And now all your pieces have some stability. You can keep the knight on d4 as well. But either way, you're spacing things out and clawing back. Also, knight takes, so knight takes e5, rook e1 is the idea. And even if it doesn't win material, if it trades everything off, some of these endgames, Berlin endgames, can still be tough for black. Because doubled c-pawns means that white enjoys a pawn majority on the king side and passed pawn potential. If everything gets traded off, double pawns aren't the best.
And maybe this f3 move is aimed at knight d4, bishop e3, and then if knight f5, you could come back to the f2 square and prepare g4 and knight e2. It just felt like by not playing f4, he clearly wanted to be able to bring his bishop back within the pawn chain.
Yeah, I really like what Jan is doing here. You mentioned g4, that is standard because you want to push your majority at some point. Anish is hopping the knight around. It always can fall back to c6. It's going to be safe. But the push here for white is to play g4, is to gain some space on the king side. That is where you enjoy the majority. Why don't you want to play f4? It might fix the pawns. You play f4, you can't advance any pawns on the light squares because of this light squared bishop over here. So you want to be very careful about pushing f4. If you have to, you have to. But ideally, you don't. You'd rather push g4, then king g3, then f4. You want mobile pawns.
Yeah, that's a really important point. By playing g4, king g3 first, then f4, f5. If you start with f4, you can never push the other pawns. And I actually thought that this move could not be played, but Giri's calculated it.
You have to calculate knight e4 check. Then you have knight takes c5. And all of a sudden, if black recaptures, you take on e5, and you're going to pick up c5. Also, you can't throw in a desperado because d7 is hanging. This position has transitioned a bit. No more doubled pawns, even material. So I'd like to think that's progress for Giri. But when there's pawns on both sides of the board, sometimes the bishop can be a lot better than the knight.
Yeah, it's really difficult to say here. I think maybe technically the bishop is a little bit better, but we're also getting close to a time scramble. There's no big weaknesses. The knight can be a very, very tricky piece as well.
It can be tricky. Just watch the clock. Nepomniachtchi's got a 20+ second advantage. And at some point, might want to put the pawns on light squares and try to pressure the pawn chain.
Oh, you can't allow f5. No way. By black,
F5
so you must play it.
Fixing that. Sometimes you have g5 ideas. And now you might want to push this pawn to b5 to fix these pawns on dark squares so that your dark squared bishop can eventually reroute and target things.
Yeah, like everything we're seeing.
I'm liking what's happening. If knight c8's play to go knight d6, bishop b4, and even some of the end games are looking promising.
1 second again.
Bishop b4. Yeah, once. You can trade.
Oh, and take on
I
e7.
think you could have traded. I think you could have traded. Because you have
That
these
was a
moves
big
to burn
moment.
with the A pawn. You
That
can
that
try
could
to
have
go
been
for this
costly.
pawn, but your bishop might get trapped. I
Yep.
think there was a missed opportunity by Jan there.
Now he might take it and go king d5 and king to e6, but I'm not sure that it's enough. Yeah,
Shouldn't be.
Yeah. They'll just shuffle the kings, I think.
There was that brief moment the players were playing so quickly that Jan, I think, could have traded into a king and pawn endgame with opposition.
Absolutely right. He actually would have to concede opposition for a moment, but as you mentioned, he had those waiting moves with the pawns, and that would have won him the game. And maybe he's shaking his head thinking about that right now.
Yeah, I'm sure he's picked up on it. It was the only other possibility. He's like, I played this well. What did I miss? That was it. So Anish surviving there is huge. At this point in the match, every half point counts.
Yeah, most certainly. We're back to this, but I will say that Giri has improved the position a little bit, because previously there was like a4, a5 played and the b pawn was lagging behind. Giri has done a lot here. He's got a weak c pawn. There's no time for h5, you know, the way that Nepomniachtchi played it last time. So I do think he's improved this line.
Yeah, immediately targeting weakness well before black has counterplay. Objectively, this is fine for black, but at some point you play c6 to c5. You transition, you take an isolated pawn and give up your backwards pawn. That's supposed to be fine. You don't want to do it right away. You want to force your opponent there. Knight g4, these ideas, there's sometimes sacrifices. That's why we see queen e2, because bishop takes g3 was an idea. So I guess for Jan, he doesn't need to play. Okay, now c5 is played. It's supposed to be fine. You know, again, like d5 is a weakness, isolated queen's pawn, but there's just one weakness. And there's enough material where I got a weakness, I have enough defenders, just not enough to push. But there's supposed to be no risk here for Anish. And he's going to try his very best to just tickle this pawn or provoke something like, I'm going to say pawn in d4. Then you have queen to c4, targeting f7. The queen would be overloaded, and then you'd win. Just ideas like that you might be able to pick up the d4 pawn. That's why that knight is maybe fishing on g5. So,
and that's why he's gone queen b3. Similar idea. I actually was expecting at some point the knight to retreat h3 to f4 to put pressure on d5, but the problem is, as soon as you do that, the pawn can just move.
Yes. I think he had that in his cards if no progress is made. Technically, progress has been made here. White has picked up a pawn, but they're all on the same side of the board. It's a technical draw, but
it is.
Keep the knight on the board. You would love to get an imbalance here. An imbalance does not mean, in this case, opposite bishops. An imbalance would be maybe getting a knight versus bishop endgame. So if you're given the opportunity, maybe you can somehow trade off your light squared bishop for black's knight. Some sort of imbalance. Opposite bishops won't do it, but it's hard here. This is a hard one because there's no way to force that exchange.
Yeah, and even though, like, the problem is this would be a good position if the match was closer, but a lot of time might disappear here, and if Jan makes the draw, you haven't really done much except just, kind of vacuum a lot of time off the match clock.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I would do? I'd probably put my bishop on e8 if I can, to have two attackers on g6, keeping the knight and king close by, and then try to bring my king in. But even there, I don't quite see it, but you have to try. You absolutely have to try. Like, I would walk my king up. The problem is, if I ever move my bishop to a4, there's knight g4. So I really don't know how to get the timing going. Maybe now, bishop a4, bishop e8.
Yeah, I definitely think it should be tried. We saw a long, what should have been a draw endgame played out by Jan, although the difference was he was up significant material. He was up like the exchange, and here this one is much more drawn.
Yeah, even if I go bishop a4, there's even a path the knight can go h6 to g4 and still harass the base of the pawn. So bishop is played. Okay, I'm going to play bishop e8. Don't see any harm in
I thought he
trying
would
that.
give it a try. Yeah, it didn't look like there was any risk.
I do think Anish has to make the decision. Is he trying? Is he going to make a real effort to try in this game? Or is it better to make a draw so you have more games left in the match?
Well, that's what I mean. We're seeing a lot of time disappearing here, Eric. I don't know if it's the right call unless you're actually making an effort to win this position.
For sure.
Well, I'll tell you one person that looks pretty bored. That's Jan Nepomniachtchi. He's like, whatever. Let me offer this exchange of knights. He's up a minute. That's the thing. Jan is such a fast player, Eric. He's a fast defender as well. He just looks unbothered.
Yeah, he wants to make sure if he's losing, it has nothing to do with the time situation.
I guess this is just a draw.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's even bishop e1, so... Somehow we ended up down upon there, so not the best, but obviously he wanted it to be a draw immediately rather than waste any more time. And I think that will be the halfway point of the 3+1 segment. Although, truth be told, Eric, we are a little bit more than halfway because of how long that game went. So the match clock is down, about 20 minutes remaining. That's not that many 3-minute games, Eric. And we only have bullet after that. So at what point do you start to get real concerned as Anish with the match score looking the way it is?
Still no concern yet, in the sense that it's at a 5-point deficit. You just don't want it to go higher than that. 5 points, we've seen in SCC. You have enough time in the bullet portion. But I think he's recognizing how well Jan is playing. Like, the guy's not making blunders. In bullet, people make blunders. Doesn't matter how well you're playing going into the match. It's 1+1, but mistakes are going to happen. The game is different. It's certainly sped up. I think he's right now going for the stability option. Look, draws are okay. I'm going to keep it at 5. I get chances to make it 4. That's fine. But Jan's not giving him anything. We have to give credit where it's due. We're not talking about many positions where it's like, oh, Anish isn't informed today. He's messing up winning positions. He has done that before. But today, Jan is just playing stellar chess. And some of these positions, nothing's being missed. And because he's always up on the clock, you're not in position to try to flag him or, take some unnecessary risk.
Yep. So we have a situation where, that deficit needs to be made up. Although, as Eric's pointing out, not dire just yet. So while Anish levels up his game, reminder that you guys can level up your chess game with Neuro. Gum and mints for your energy and focus, calm and clarity, and sleep and recharge. Neuro's got you covered with natural products that help you lock in. When every move counts, stay sharp with Neuro and save 15% with code CHESS15 at go.chess.com/Neuro. Will Anish manage to rack up some more points? Find out after this break as we return with the final part of this 3+1 segment.
Another pep talk? Nah, you're past that. High fades, but good energy. That stays. Workout, workday, whatever. We're here for it all damn day. It's never just one thing. Be ready for everything. Mind sharp, focus locked. Don't just move forward. We've got good energy. Neuro Gum and Mints.
The Esports World Cup 2025 was electric. The best games played by the best teams. Our esports arenas sold out. We filmed them with hundreds of thousands of roaring fans, including 2,000 of the most dedicated supporters coming from our Super Fans program who came to Riyadh to cheer on their favorite teams. We had more than 4,000 media outlets covering all the action on site and broadcasting the EWC around the globe. Esports World Cup 2025 was bigger, louder, and even more unforgettable, and celebrating those who proved they are the best in the world.
Brace yourself for a chess brawl. Nepo and Firuza dive into a wild Sicilian Najdorf at the Champion Chess 2 finals, where every move hits like a knockout punch and the tension is off the charts. Who will survive this rollercoaster ride? And Grandmaster Pepe Cuenca, let's find out together. Nepo goes for a positional approach. The idea is to pile up on the backward d6 pawn with rook to d1. a3 is a must, otherwise that knight on b4 will start tickling white in all the wrong places. Knight d7 is logical, but d6 suffers after knight d5. Black wants to get rid of its miserable bishop, but now the fragile d6 brother falls after knight c7. What on earth is Firuza doing? That knight on c5 is spicier than a plate of curry. But hold on, d2 is hanging too. After queen to g5, knight f3 is a looming threat, which is why king h1 is a subtle move. But Firuza is a fearless warrior. He throws h5 on the board, and after rook f1, queen f4 is a perfect bit of prophylaxis. After this slow move, black is already knocking on the king's door like an uninvited guest at a party. c3 is a blunder because allows h3, and now after queen d2 with a double threat, black gets material back. The winning move here was queen to e3, threatening mate on e1, and after a queen trade, black wins after rook c8, thanks to the mate on c1. But wait, Firuza played queen takes d4 instead, and suddenly white is back in business. We enter a roughly equal endgame, but white has a better structure and control of the d-file. Rook d6 starts making black sweat. Firuza plays rook to b8, thinking that knight takes a4 wasn't possible due to bishop d7. But after rook b6, white grabs a juicy extra pawn, and Firuza is left shaking his head. Nepo doesn't even blink, he just marches his pass a pawn down the board like a boss and seals the deal. What a ridiculous action-packed game!
Welcome back to the Chess Championship between Anish Giri and Jan Nepomniachtchi and Eric. It's still, I mean, it's not as much, as we saw earlier. It didn't seem as bad. Felt like Anish was making a little bit of a comeback, but still, Jan Nepomniachtchi is pulling away. He's got that lead of 5 points, and he's maintained it so far. As we look at the scoreboard, we see just where he's collected those points, and it's all in the 5+1 segment, Eric, but it might stand that that's enough points to take the entire thing. So what does Anish have to do in this 3-minute segment, what remains of it, in order to bring this back to something manageable for the bullet?
I think Anish, honestly, is looking forward to this segment. I think he should view this as a fresh start. He just wasn't getting any footing against Nepomniachtchi. The guy wasn't blundering, and he was playing so strong. You look forward to this. You have to start well, but there's some comfort. Like 5 points, plenty of time. I think again, he needs to view this as a complete fresh start. It's no longer Blitz. It's not really pure bullet. The 1 second increment is important, but it's not Jan's strongest point. There's a pre-move battle, or they're down to a few seconds. When you're down in a match, you welcome variance, you welcome the risk. This is the format for it. So yeah, I not to get frustrated, you know, in Anish's shoes, down by 5, new format. No longer can you afford to be down. Like the transition in the time controls is simple. You don't have time to think. In 3-minute and 5-minute, Anish was taking 20, 30 seconds, and Jan was getting time advantages. When you start playing bullet, generally you switch that off and transition to mainly playing natural moves, and so you won't fall behind. That's
Is this
it's just a different mentality.
Is this a mistake? Because I mean, we saw the
Sorry,
reaction very quickly by Giri, but it looked like maybe he might have missed the bishop on a4 pinning the c pawn. I just couldn't really tell.
He did. By the way, I got too excited about the bullet portion because my comments stand that it being 2-2 right now in the segment, like I don't think Anish should be taking crazy risk here. Like stabilizing, keeping it within range, but yeah, if Jan's not giving
He's
him too
doing the
much,
opposite.
he is doing the opposite. So my comments still stand, but I got a little excited. I thought we're on the bullet segment. And I was
Well,
like,
Eric, he's
oh,
playing
I'm up
it
for
like
that.
it's a bullet game. I don't blame you because look at this position. He's like sacked a piece already. There's tension in the center. I mean, this is as if it's a bullet game.
You're completely right, and maybe he was listening to me and he thought it was a bullet portion. Like he got confused because I was like, yeah, like bullet. Let's just play fast natural moves. Well, we're playing some fast natural moves here, Amon, and we're down a piece for compensation for some pawns. But the position that I said earlier in this match favored Jan was that imbalance, right? Like that game where Jan had a piece for a bunch of pawns. I said that favors him. Unless this is some really good sacrifice where we see this position. Like right now, we see White's king. It's being checked. You know, it's a little bit loose, but it's not winning for Black. It's not even better for Black. So we know that White has the resources to defend. And in the long run, White's better if Black does improve this initiative. There is not enough for that piece.
Exactly.
So the pressure is just back on Giri here to find something here. And I guess he wanted to really change up the match during that break. But Jan loves sharp positions. He likes solving these issues. I'm up a piece, you're trying to checkmate me. That just like gives him adrenaline. I feel like it feeds, he feeds off these sharp positions.
Yeah, and there's no definitive win, as you said. This is just going to get worse and worse for Anish. Queen h4, queen maybe e4, trying to watch over all of the squares in the position here.
Queen e4 is a nice looking move. Covers the mating ideas. I don't see too many mating ideas. It centralizes. You have the e file. For sure. I mean, like when you sacrifice a piece, you want there to be as many pieces on the board as possible to prove your compensation. With just a queen and a knight near White's king, White has their own knight and queen near the king. You have no advantage. You have no surplus of like attackers versus defenders. Black's rook isn't in the game. So even psychologically, looking at this position, Jan's not panicking. He's playing quickly because he knows there's nothing.
Yeah,
Anish,
exactly.
I don't even know if he knows there's nothing, but he's taking so much time trying to force something that clearly isn't here. There's clearly no attack. Now down to 20 seconds, he's realizing I have to trade off the queens because I can't play this position with queens on the board with 20 seconds. But look at what we're looking like. This is now a winning endgame.
Yeah, there's nothing here anymore. Yeah, this is over. Also 10 seconds.
You have right now 3 pawns for a piece, but you're about to lose 1 pawn. That's 2 pawns for a piece. That's not enough.
No, not even close. Yeah, you could try bishop a4, rook d7, and then put the bishop back on b3.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's very professional. No fun at all from Anish. because you have 2 pawns for a piece, but you can't push them.
And the A pawn is the correct color, just in some sort of future might matter. The A pawn and the bishop are the correct color if you're queening on that square, and that's going to be resignation. And just falling further behind here is Anish. I'm not sure if he wanted to play that type of position, Eric, because he really went for something, but I couldn't tell if he actually planned to, or if he maybe underestimated or missed this idea in the center and said, well, I just lost the pawn, let me try to justify it, and he just got himself carried away.
You're right. I mean, at some point, players tilt, the frustration sets in, and that might have been a moment of frustration. And just not in a position where you can afford dropping these points. Yeah, now we're at the 9.5 to 3.5. We're approaching must-win territory. I was saying keep it around 5 because I rate his bullet pretty highly, Anish that is.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm also rating is Nepo. He's playing just world-class Blitz right now.
Yeah, he is. There's just nothing he's doing wrong. We've talked about blunders, mistakes. I can only recall them coming from Anish's side. And Nepomniachtchi he's had tough positions, but he's resilient. He also plays super quick, so that if he's ever in a bad position, he always has at least time as a win condition.
Yeah, I will say this position visually is different than other positions we've looked at. Anish has mobilized his kingside majority. This 4 and 3. So at least there's potential to play e5, f5, bring the knights in. It's a slow position that I've always been advocating for, but here with even more opportunity to gain space, improve the position, find squares for those knights. It's not a position where where Nepomniachtchi has tactical resources, active counterplay. It's more static, and I'm always saying, against Nepomniachtchi, strategically, you're supposed to aim for maybe some dry positions where you have to put up boring defense. You don't have fun. Might be equal, but let Nepomniachtchi take some risk.
I'm surprised we haven't seen e5. It's a natural looking move. We see it now, but it was definitely a little bit better, I think, before, when the bishop would have to retreat to c7 instead of c5.
Yeah, the space advantage favors keeping more pieces on the board. You want to mobilize. You want to play f5 here. The problem is that the queens are traded off. This space advantage in the center isn't that valuable, and you start worrying about your pawns are on dark squares. If you push them too far and the queens are off, they could be weak. So again, Black is handling this super well. The pawns have pushed to e5, but the space isn't being felt because Black has control of the d file, has a stable square for this bishop on b4, and you're rooting for. If you're rooting for Giri, you're like, okay, I need something here. Well, we need this imbalance. We need questions asked. We need positions where Black has tough decisions.
Yeah. I think we have to take this, but after takes, knight d6, the question is whether you can play just bishop takes d6 in that case. So knight e3 instead.
Yeah, I mean, we have another endgame here, but Black has an extra pawn on the queen side, and even though this knight is really good on d5, this shouldn't be much.
No.
In fact, if you overplay it, Black will be the one pressing.
Yeah, I could see Black winning, especially because time is going to get low, and you have that outside pass pawn, b5, a5, a4. That's going to be very difficult to deal with.
I'm even okay with this position, but the last game really hurts. That was a loss where, like here, the way Anish handles these positions is he's going to try to press. If there's nothing there, I don't expect him to press this position because of the risk of the bishop and the outside pass pawn doing damage. I don't think he's going to try to play this for a win. But that last game with Black, he tried to play that for a win in a position he shouldn't have.
Yeah. Yep.
You know?
And the score reflects it 10-4 with a gap of 6 points now. And the match clock, top left of your screen, that's how much time is left of these 3+1 games. And based on that timer, we're probably going to play, I would say, 2 more games at this rate.
I think in Giri's shoes, you need those 2 games because that second game will be with white. Don't want like a 10-minute game here where Jan is just pushing with white and maximizing, right? Like, I don't know about all the theory and things like that, but if you can sneak in a session, a 3-1 or 5-1 session with an extra white, you know, that can be pretty impactful because in bullet, I would say that's not as meaningful. You don't have as much time to play really critical lines with white and test your opponent in the opening. They can get away with like some sidelines. But in these blitz games, you want to maximize your whites. And Anish is like that kind of player anyways. Solid with black, push with white. He's just not able to push against Jan right now the way he's playing. This position, we have elements of a King's Indian structure where you have the pawn on d5, the pawn chain. White sometimes will try to play for c5. Black plays on the king side. Not fully. Black's bishop is not fianchettoed, but the piece placement is very similar. And if there's a space advantage for white, it's on the queen side. Okay,
I mean, as Jan, you're not too upset about a draw, right? It just doesn't really help Anish's cause. And I will say, I don't think there's been a big push with the white pieces versus the black pieces. Nothing that Jan is too worried about. Let's remember, I mean, I'd actually love to know, but I think the truth is that has Anish only won 1 game?
Yeah.
The rest have been draws?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're not too concerned about someone that's only beat you once. Like, it just doesn't matter what color you are. So, all to say, I think he's more than happy to just take that repetition.
We're not seeing variance in Giri's approach as white. He's repeating these positions, which I am okay with, but we're getting closer and closer to the point where we're not okay with it because there's not enough time and something has to change. These positions, well, they're certainly very close to equal. And with the knights, you try to find some long-term squares for them. Sometimes that's c4. But if black doesn't touch this b7 pawn, then the knight on e5 doesn't have c6. It looks pretty on e5, but so many pieces have been traded off. It's simply not enough. It's just, you're not actually attacking anything. And there's not enough pieces to attack something. So this game plan of getting these positions and waiting for weaknesses, it's not working right now.
No. Queen b4. If anything, I'm starting to maybe get interested in Jan's position here because there's no clear targets. There's no safe squares for the knights. Even the knight on c4 can always be eliminated with b5 in the future. So nothing, there's no stable outposts for those pieces.
No, and speaking of, if this game ends in a draw, right, within the next 6.5 minutes, the last white of the segment goes to Jan, and he's proven he's able to get some winning chances, right? So that's not good. If you're in Anish's shoes, Anish wants to prolong this game, I think, because with black, he is, I mean, his 1 win was with black, but that was when Jan pressed things. In general, his repertoire, it's with white. That's where he wants to strike, and these basic endgames aren't it.
No, it's not feeling like it. The pawns are also going to make it to light squares here, so there's no particular danger. Wouldn't be surprised to see f5. Yeah, another light square pawn, and the bishop can cover the dark squares while the pawns cover the light squares.
You know, some other days people enter these positions. There's blunders or something when you play these endgames. You hope your opponent, like, I don't know, makes some mistake, but it's already been proven. They've played this position, similar positions. Jan's not making mistakes here. So I don't know how we can keep entering these positions that are, without exaggerating, extremely drawish without problems for black.
And even if there's no problems, sometimes it can be a practical push, but Jan has just demonstrated that that's not the case either. He's demonstrated confidence defending, handling all sorts of positions, and just haven't been able to crack it. But he's stubborn and he keeps going for them.
Yeah, like without like just breaking down simply, we're looking at endgames where you're just dancing around with a knight, hoping to catch something. That's not going to work against Jan. One knight, you like at lower levels, people hate playing against knight. They dance around, they fork you, they take all your pieces.
Yeah.
Here, look at the control by black. The bishop often controls the checks, takes away any annoying squares, and I would say educationally, these endgames have been a good demonstration of how to play against a knight. The way Jan has been placing his bishop, consistently never allowing a knight outpost or a long-term square. H5, okay, maybe some people like, okay, get the knight to F4, but that dark squared bishop covers everything.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably going to also throw in the move H4 if the knight goes back to A3, so you have to be a little bit careful as well.
Yeah, if black might go king D5, allow knight A3, and then you don't defend the pawn. Because then you play H4 and you try to pick up the F pawn in exchange for that. There's ideas like that.
Yeah, knight D4, F4.
F4?
Yeah.
F4.
Starts to get scary. F4, F3, and bishop takes
The
F2.
good thing is there's knight B5, knight C3, knight D1. That might be in time.
Yeah.
And that's holding things for Anish. But that's just holding things.
Yeah, it's just a draw. And it's a draw you had to calculate.
Yeah. So that's why it's like psychologically even, these endgames aren't even a push. And if Anish tries to push, he's been punished before. So you can take on F5. That's the simplest, right? Take on F5, bring your knight back to D4. Well, I guess it's black's move. It's black's move.
Yeah, if he takes on F2, yeah.
If he takes on F2, take on F5, then bring the knight back to D4.
And it looks like the game will also end in time here for another one.
No, like all the credit to Nepomniachtchi right now. You can commentate so much, but Anish has only won one game. And the other game that he was clearly winning, we have to go all the way back to game 2 of the match, right? It's been that long. That's very impressive play.
11-5, and there's going to be one final game in this 3+1 segment here, but the games have been very, very similar in terms of what they've brought in terms of winning chances, right? You just mentioned it. Thinking back to obviously the win he did have, but then from there, game number 2 of the entire match where we can really say, I remember like Anish had a great position, he was outplaying, etc. Are we just seeing another repetition in this line? Like what's going to change?
They shouldn't well, yeah. I mean, I would think Nepo would.
Nepo looks
play this out,
surprised, right?
Not
Like he's
give
wondering.
another white. Yeah.
He looks confused at why we're just getting repetition. He's like, okay, I guess. I don't really understand it. Because if you want to go to the bullet, you could just sit there and wait for the match clock to expire. I don't know. I have the kind of same smirk that I feel like Jan has right now, where I'm not really understanding what Anish is doing.
I don't think Anish is expected to do anything from those black positions, and when he plays that opening, he's not. He's okay with the draw. Like I really think mentality-wise, he's going into it okay with a draw, and he's going to continue to try to press with white. There's different definitions of that, but he's not expecting to do something with black. And I'm okay with that. That's why I'm critical of that first game from the break where he sacked the piece and lost, because I said just keep it within 5.
Eric, I'm starting to think more and more that he thought it was bullet or something, because thinking back to that game, it's so out of character for this whole match, and seeing that he's now comfortable making these draws even with the deficit, that game feels even more out of place.
For sure. And I'm going to bring up another tennis analogy. I mean, his best chance, he's not breaking, not taking the serve of Jan. We need to take it to tie breaks, and the tie break equivalent would be the bullet portion, because just not getting anything. And if he's not changing the approach, then it only makes sense to keep the margin as manageable as possible. Here, let's talk about the position. Fairly symmetrical. Black managed to liquidate the center. So when the center gets liquidated, then we're talking about piece play here. And I look at the piece play, Black's fully developed and coordinated, White's fully developed and coordinated, but there's no pawns in the middle. There's nothing to cramp Black's position. And again, just equalizing. Black is equalizing on demand here. And
equal at worst.
Yeah. And we're talking about Anish, who is a top player who's known as a very strong theoretician. So still lots of credit for Jan to negate that. I mean, he's played World Championship matches. His openings are well prepared, but Anish always strong in the openings and a theoretician, and nothing here.
Yeah, that's been the theme in the match in general. It's just felt that, Anish has had a few playable positions, a few slightly better positions, but I've felt that Jan in those spots has kept his speed up, and then almost when Anish's positions have been the best, his time has been the lowest, and that's a credit to Jan for applying that pressure, and he's escaped some of his worst positions that way. But then he also has the games where he's had good games, and then he converts those ones. So put that all together, and that's the lead we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when even talking about the positions, there's not that much commentary in a lot of the moments here. The tension is, do I trade or not? And what we've seen is trades. This position we have in front of us, if Anish is actually ambitious here, only thing you can target is the B pawn, right? Put the rook on B1, target the B pawn. That's the only thing. But you have to watch out for bishop takes G3. He plays king G2. That's a tricky move from Jan. Jan's up 40 seconds. You keep falling behind on the clock. Then when you actually have a moment where you maybe want to play for a win, you realize I don't have enough time on the clock to actually pursue that. So rook B1 should be played automatically. But I can play B6.
And E4 is as much a weakness as it is a tempting move.
Yeah. E4 is very tempting, but there's knight F6, and the E4 pawn falls even if you lose B6. And every single thing we're looking at is trade.
Yeah, E4 knight F6 is there. You might take the B pawn, you lose the E pawn. It's probably even more important that way. We see the king move to G2 and then back. So nice. A lot of shuffling and yeah.
If anyone's pressing here, well, it would be Jan. He's got the pieces coordinated in the middle, active. It's very equal here, but even activity-wise, I would rather be black than white.
Mm-hmm.
Like at some point, I'd like to play rook C2, knight to E4. The attacking moves favor black. This is one of those positions that sneaks up on you. You can end up all of a sudden falling for a tactic here. Black's queen supports the rook, covers the long diagonal. Just a great piece. The rook on C4 is covering everything. You have to watch out. Rook C2 runs into knight D4. That would be a blunder. But we're talking about Jan today, who's not making any blunders.
Yeah, we haven't seen any of those, really.
"20 seconds. At least
the thing is, it could only go wrong, right? It could only be bad for Giri. He's not winning this game.
No, he's got a bishop on E1. This is black supporting the knight. You probably want to get your queen back on this diagonal because it has pinning potential and it just coordinates, supports e6, queen d7, trying to harass. Don't mind that at all. But yeah, black is the one. Queen c6 at some point will be played. I think that's the active move. In 13 seconds, you know, like even in this position, Anish is still in time trouble.
Yeah, he can lose on time. G5.
All of a sudden, G4 and knight G5. There's
Absolutely
very dangerous ideas coming here, and under 10 seconds, it's another game. Just all of a sudden, it's flipping around. The knight comes to G5. You have knight H3 ideas. Your bishop is still on E1, not participating.
No, this is panic.
He's calculating here. You can probably pick off this pawn in the future. The endgames are now bad for potentially for white because of the H4 pawn.
Look at the bishop. It's not part of the game.
The endgames are bad here.
I mean, it's just lost. Not even bad, but lost.
That's a better word. Down a pawn, down to 2 seconds. Full opportunity for Jan to take advantage here. Find a way to provoke this pawn to go to d4. Then the king invades. You'd love to somehow find that second weakness as black. And you can take as much time as you need. 2 seconds. Anish has to pre-move here. F3.
It's such a tough spot.
Finally forcing the pawn to push. That was it.
And this is over.
That's the second pawn. And
wow, and Anish Giri just cannot seem to find his footing in this matchup. Eric, we're heading into the bullet portion, and calm, cool, collected, and ever confident for good reason is Jan Nepomniachtchi. He has an overwhelming lead at the moment. It's just been that kind of match for Anish. Very disappointing so far. You've spoken about his bullet, Eric. We look at the scoreboard, you know, not much to say there. And I think there's even an extra point. There it is, 12.5 to 5.5. This type of deficit, Eric, is just tough to come back from in bullet for anybody.
Very tough, but I think Anish is happy to get out of the Blitz stage. That was very one-sided. It's not every day that Anish Giri gets neutralized with the white pieces like that. Just completely neutralized in every aspect. So he has to look forward to the bullet, and then he can afford to play loose. But that deficit is a very large deficit. There's enough time, but the comeback has to start immediately.
Yeah, you said it best.
I don't know what to recommend. Like play-wise.
Who can? I don't have anything. You know, if I had the answer, Eric, then I would sell it to all the top players. But unfortunately, a deficit like that against an in-form Jan Nepomniachtchi is difficult to overcome for anybody. We'll see what Giri can do. The bullet portion awaits us. And before we jump to our break, I want to let everyone know about Chess.com, the fellow game changer that Chess.com is thrilled to support. They're a record-breaking company taking the gaming world by storm. They have their brand new Chess Up 2. It's a physical electronic board. It syncs your Chess.com rated games. You can save them and analyze them on Chess.com. Has built-in Wi-Fi, a touchscreen, and TouchSense pieces. And Chess Up 2 supports players of all levels. Over 500,000 Chess.com games have already been played on the Chess Up 2 board, and now we're hooking you up with 10% off when you use the code CCT10. So head over to playchessup.com or use !ChessUp in chat to unlock this limited time offer. This is a board that I had the chance to use just last week, and it was I made some very, very funny content pieces. Eric, don't think you've maybe used it yet, but I can say I thoroughly enjoyed it, and maybe you guys will see some of that content come out soon. So we're going to head to a break, but we'll be back with the SCC bullet portion between Anish Giri and Jan Nepomniachtchi right after this.
Has this ever happened to you?
Oh, shoot. Another mouse slip.
What about this?
Oh, well, holy bishops en passant. I think I'm getting carpal tunnel. If only there was a way to play online chess with a real-life board.
What if I told you you can with Chess Up 2? That's right. With Chess Up 2, you can now play over the board online.
Wow.
Simply connect your Chess.com account to our state-of-the-art Chess Up 2 and get a game started. Every time you move, our revolutionary board will transmit the data online directly to your opponent. And as soon as they move, squares will light up, signifying which piece is going where.
Well, shucks. This Hikaru guy seems pretty good.
With Chess Up 2, mouse slips and sore wrists are a thing of the past.
My carpal tunnel is gone. Well, this sure is fun. I'm playing online against my new friend Hikaru. Who needs a family? But I sure do miss clicking on a piece and seeing all of my available moves, like they have on Chess.com.
Well, Danny, you're in luck. This feature is totally available on the Chess Up 2 as well.
Wow. Well, I'm convinced. But hey, what if I don't just want to play an opponent online? What if I want to use one of Chess.com's other great tools?
I thought you'd never ask. With Chess Up 2, you can fully take advantage of the Chess.com integration by playing bots, analyzing your offline games, and even using our optional AI assistants to visualize the quality of moves with color-coded hints.
Well, holy Chess Up, you did it. You made IRL chess cool again.
You got it, Danny.
And how do you know my name?
Play chess today on the board of tomorrow.
Have you ever wished you could just play game after game against a coach who actually teaches you stuff? Imagine a coach that plays at your level, tailors challenges for you, and even gives you feedback while you play. Well, buckle up, because that's exactly what we built. Introducing Play Coach on Chess.com. You can now literally play a full-on game against Coach, who talks to you, points out threats, praises your genius bishop moves, and gently roasts you for missing that fork that's been there for more than 5 moves. Here's how it works. Go to chess.com/play/coach, or just hit up Play Coach in the app. Pick your color, choose the difficulty, and boom, you're in. You can even customize your coach. Don't like their vibe? Change it up. Choose a new coach. Want more or less help? Toggle move suggestions, turn on or off threat arrows, the eval bar. You are in control. Coach will break down your play as you go. We're talking real-time feedback here. Strategic tips, motivation, compliments when you crush it, hints when you need them, all of it targeted exactly at your level. Total beginner? Coach will teach you opening principles, basic tactics, and king safety. More advanced? Then Coach will give you tips on pawn structure, positional ideas, the works. So stop wasting time. Go to chess.com/play/coach, fire up a game, and actually start getting better. Coach is waiting for you on the board, and I'll see you around on chess.com.
Can you recommend us a series or a movie that you love?
Yeah, Peaky Blinders series.
I like Mission Impossible.
One of my favorite movies, probably Inception. Probably everybody has already watched it, but if you haven't, you definitely have to.
Everyone should see Lord of the Rings at least once.
I had quite a fun watching Better Call Saul.
Yeah, I guess RRR for people, I think a lot of people are enjoying it.
Your favorite song these days?
Jay-Z or something is good.
Before the game, I often listen to ACDC, like Thunderstruck.
Some Turkish, I don't know, some Turkish one.
So they're an Irish band. Yeah, again, nothing is coming to my mind.
Bollywood, Hindi music. Otherwise, I like music from chess-based India reels.
If you could instantly learn any language, which one would it be?
The most useful would be, like perfect English, of course, but actually maybe Chinese would be cool. No?
I'm torn between Georgian, Nepali as well, but Nepali, it will just make me feel better that I speak my father's language as well. Yeah, Nepali probably.
Arabic.
Spanish is the right answer.
Spanish.
I say Sanskrit.
Clutch Chess Champion Showdown is here, and 4 superstars take the stage. World number 1, Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, Fabiano Caruana, and reigning world champion, Gukesh Damaraju. With more than $400,000 on the line, daily win bonuses, escalating point values, and the one-of-a-kind Champions Jackpot, every game could change everything. It all unfolds October 27th through 29th, live from the brand new playing halls of the St. Louis Chess Club. Don't miss a moment of chess history in the making.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the Chess Championship. We have Anish Giri and Jan Nepomniachtchi going head-to-head in this SCC matchup. And Eric, we are moving into the bullet segment now. That's 1+1, so there is that increment. But most importantly, as we look at the scoreboard here, this is a moment where Anish Giri has to make an impact immediately, right? The deficit is just too much, 12.5 to 5.5. And with a deficit like this, Eric, even mathematically, it's fair to say, I don't know if he can afford a loss.
No, you're right. This is the last stand for Anish. Jan has been so impressive today. But as I said from the beginning, when things aren't going well, you should welcome the bullet portion. Take it as a fresh start. And this is it. This is we're gonna see what Anish is made of. This is SCC elimination format.
We can't see knight h7, knight h2 draws anymore, Eric. There's just no time literally for that. So let's see.
Yeah, no, we want to see some loose chess here. Anish said he's sneaky good in bullet, can pre-move well, can play quickly. Just facing someone who's not making mistakes, and that's that's a tough challenge.
It's frustrating. And he's also, even if his bullet is good, sometimes, you can be good at a certain time control, but when you have to play other time controls and it's just not your day, in Blitz, that just affects your bullet as well. So maybe he's, not bringing his absolute best bullet forward in this particular moment for that reason. But from the flip side, Eric, sometimes with a massive lead, we've seen, and I've commentated these matchups, I've seen players just almost take their foot off the gas. They think the match is over, and every player has given up ground in the bullet segment despite leading. So we can see if that happens as well.
No, it's like a natural human reaction. You're completely right. When you have a big lead like that, sometimes you change up what brought you success in the first place. It's just natural, like protect the lead, play a little differently. But in this case, doesn't look like that's happening. I will say something. While the game's going on, Anish is down in 10 seconds with a tough position. I don't like his opening choices whatsoever as black here. Like this position from the get-go has looked like kind of a bad King's Indian.
Oh, that's
And we
mated
have the
one.
checkmate. Yeah, he actually mated himself by
Yeah,
playing knight g6,
exactly.
taking away the square. But that opening should not be played. I'm just gonna be like that. That was not a good position, not fun to play. Bullet blitz. He's not in a position to repeat moves, but like that was a very one-sided game. White just took space, crashed through on the queen side, and suffered zero repercussions. There was no time for Anish to get something on the king side. Everything's going wrong.
Yeah, it is. And this position, by the way,
Why are we playing this in bullet? Like, I'm going to be a little critical. Yes, there's a chance of result because of the clock, but Jan has demonstrated
this has never been a
such-
successful point, right?
It hasn't. It hasn't.
No. It's very defeated. He's trying because, you know, he's had some good positions in
Queen
these Catalan
C6,
structures, but it
but
hasn't been
not
this.
recent. And it hasn't. No, it's already fine for black. Like, I like black's position. I'm pinning the knight. Everything else is equal. I don't have weaknesses. It's just going to be a time advantage for Jan.
So
We're in a
Eric,
loop right now.
my most broken record thing I say on SCC broadcasts is that I think adaptability is the #1 thing you need to be able to do to find success. And I don't see any of that from Anish. He's just so willing to keep playing the same openings with a massive deficit in the score and no advantages in those positions.
That's right. Yeah, no, the adaptability isn't there. And sometimes when that's the case, it means, okay, the result is going this way, but I do think I can improve on that result. And I'm wondering, is that how Anish actually feels here, that by repeating this type of position, something is going to change?
Yeah, rook
Is that the
c4. I
thought?
mean, you can exchange here, but it looks few and far between. One thing about Jan, we haven't seen major blunders, and this doesn't look like a position where a big blunder can even
There's
happen.
a trick here with queen c8 and queen h8. If queen d6, there's queen c8, queen h8. That's not being played, but maybe that was what Anish was setting up. Some funny tactic.
It's almost flipping around here. What is that move?
Yeah. You mean knight takes c4?
Yeah, the pawn is just loose here. I mean, I think he chose the safe option. There's nothing wrong with this, but yeah, he's just going to liquidate the pawns here.
Yeah, I don't know entirely what to say here. That we're in another endgame where maybe black's the only one playing for a win.
Yeah, because black's going to sack for the A pawn, worst case, and just go collect the other pawns.
That's right. That's completely right. Why? It's this is lost.
Yeah, but also going to the queen side with the knight kind of shows that you weren't really expecting this sack idea, and it's something that Jan was probably planning the whole time. Typical in bullet as well, as Anish sinks a little bit lower in the chair there, and you know at this point it's really starting to just. I mean, it has always been the Jan Nepomniachtchi show for this match, Eric, but it's just becoming more apparent now.
Oh, absolutely. I'll say this position, Jan decided to play sharp. We have a scotch, and you know, opposite side castling. It's a decent position for black. You have to navigate the complications, but there's play. There's winning chances. There's sharp imbalances. Has to be right here. It has to be right here. I like black's position for the match situation. You can start pushing pawns on the queen side. You have to take care of your king side as well because there's some tactics there. But you want to embrace this because you're not getting playable positions as white.
And Eric, some people could say that you're, maybe rooting for Anish here because you don't want the score to be close to the previous match we commentated because you were foreshadowing that you might have to make it up to the people if there's a score line like that.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe I'm a little bit biased there, but Generally, we like to see competitive matches. I'll say though, today the way Jan is playing, I mean, can't think of many players that would be able to handle him in this form.
Seriously.
This is something phenomenal.
And remember, Eric, the winner of this goes on to face Ali Reza. So I mean, that is just going to be an incredible matchup in the future. Jan is really looking untouchable the way that he's played this match.
Yeah, styles make matchups. That one will definitely not have like 20 night end games. With those two guys, I mean, the match isn't over yet, but in case it's Jan versus Ali Reza, you can expect some fireworks.
Oh, this is painful. You just swap the rooks to the G file. Rook G5, Rook G1, Rook G6.
Initiative is so important in bullet here. And White's just going to maintain the pressure on the G file and slowly creep in. Improve the queen, maybe place it on D5, pinning the rooks. But you can continue doing this. You can even win a pawn. But like, it's a one-way street.
Yeah. Yeah,
H6,
that's true.
H6 is being prepared here, and this is all but over.
There's no threats. You mentioned safety. The white king is completely fine here.
Take on G7, Rook H6. Here, you can check, and then bring your queen back to H1, I believe. Oh, even
yeah,
that.
you can. There's so many.
Beautiful move. Rook H1, sacking the queen for checkmate.
Very nice. The tactics are flowing. It's now a 10-point gap here, and still, I think the score has actually crept up because of how many kind of sort of quicker draws they've had, and just the amount of games is quite high, especially in that 3+1 segment. But really, I think it still stands, right? That Giri has only won a single game in this matchup.
It's incredible. I don't know if it's my luck I'm on, jumping back in the commentary booth with you, doing 2 matches this week, where top players, world champions, world championship challengers, like matches featuring like top guys, and they've gone like an hour without winning.
Yeah.
Incredible levels shown by the winners. It really isn't an everyday occurrence.
That's so true. And again, Stubborn, we're back in a very familiar position, but it has not yielded anything the entire match.
Stubborn is the right word to use, and I'm being critical, and I hope it doesn't sound unfair, where I'm like, why repeat this? Unless there's something I don't understand here. This position with more pieces on the board, I get the push. It has some similarities to Anish's best game of the match that he didn't win, the draw in game 2.
Yep.
But you would want this position with a rook on the board, with a queen on the board. With just knights, sure, it's still fine. It's better than the other positions we've had because he's actually expanded on the king side. But you leave yourself with very little wiggle
But you
room.
would also rather have this position and maybe keep playing it if the match was tighter, if it was closer to a 1 or 2 game match, then maybe it's a slight push every time and you'll take that. But the reality is that slight push has never been converted historically in this match, and we need more than a slight push at this point.
You're right, and end games take longer. Like from a whatever game theory perspective, any perspective, this is not the approach to come back. You're not maximizing winning chances versus time per game. You need to find a strategy that maximizes the amount of games played in the segment with winning chances. A loss is a loss regardless, whether you win by 10, lose by 10, lose by 8. But you need to keep those chances alive. And we have a King's Gambit. I alluded at the very start of the match that we might see the King's Gambit today.
Actually, both of the openings that you called. There was King's Gambit and Scotch, and he's gone for both of them because he's so far ahead, and obviously it's bullet as well.
So. And so it's like, Jan, this leading the match is taking more risks than Anish with the repertoire. That calls into question things, right? Because it should be the opposite. But he's so confident. He's doing so well in all the positions. He's playing loose, playing risky. This is okay
Yeah.
for Anish. Anish is happy to see the King's Gambit. He'd be happier if the match was a bit closer, but this
then
is
maybe
another
Jan
great
wouldn't play it,
opportunity
right?
to strike. Maybe Jan wouldn't play it, but this is another opportunity right here. Black up a pawn, has lots of central squares. You're going to see a knight maybe hop into e5 or something like that, and then
Yeah.
you can start maybe even pushing on the queen side and fighting for it. Black is doing very well here.
Yeah, there's knight g3 in the position, but has not been played.
H5 if you're in time, maybe. I guess H5 can be met by G5 for black. Anish pushing those queenside pawns, looking to crash through, looking at that pin.
Yeah, almost
on the
like
C
e5, f5. I would chuck all the pawns forward. H5 looks great. It's a race. And I wonder if there's any
I'm looking for
tricks
tactics here.
He makes the right move.
E5, queen takes.
The thing is, if
Followed by
yeah,
rook
okay,
b2,
queen a3.
rook b2, mate is approaching.
This is Jan's only risky game, right? In a really long time. And it's because he saw like the lead ballooned 10 points. But now it does look like Anish will get, benefit from it. Queen h6 is a threat.
As you mentioned, Amon, when people have large leads, sometimes they take their foot off the gas or they do something they wouldn't rationally do normally.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why this position we have on the board where black is completely winning. It was a King's Gambit. Such a risky opening, and Anish is well prepared. But after this, we're expecting Jan to tighten up. He's like, okay, I got to play my one King's Gambit.
Exactly.
Now let's get back to what brought us success.
Yeah. That will likely be resignation. King c1, queen a3. And there you go. Anish was that like a soundtrack there, like a walkout song? Was it just me that heard that music?
I heard some music, good music for a rare win, I guess.
Yeah, I thought I was like, Anish got a win, and like, did he have like some sort of music to accompany that moment? Well, it's been that kind of day for Anish Giri and Jan Nepomniachtchi. Don't know if he'll be playing the King's Gambit again. I hope he does, because with 10 minutes left, I really don't think it can catch up. But after that experience, Eric, he might put it back on the shelf.
I guess it depends how this game goes, because if the lead is sufficient, I could see him doing it again. If mathematically you don't risk losing the match, play some romantic openings. The position we have in front of us, great for white, ambitious, active, but again, it's in the match situation where Jan is already playing looser and giving opportunities. So it's just a little, not only is it a little too late, too late, but it's also cooperation. He demonstrated when it was necessary that he could defend as black against Anish's openings, and now he's having a little.
The positions they're unrecognizable, right?
Knight
from
C4,
the match.
yeah. Now Anish is probably about to score his second win of the match. He's picking up a full rook because B7's hanging. But
this is what happens when you get complacent. Yeah, let's get that win music back on. We hear it again. Yeah, I think he's going to go back to super solid, and put this one away, Eric. What do you think?
I don't know, because you can actually afford to lose every game in the segment and win the match.
True. It's true.
Like, maybe one or two stable games. You don't want to lose 3 in a row, but just such a dominant performance. Taking away a lot of the strengths of Giri this match.
That's right. Maybe knight h7, knight f3. One more time for the fans of the repetition out there. No, doesn't look like it.
Like this opening was played in the 3-1 segment where they had some repetitions, and it just surprises me because I like White's position. This doesn't feel like a position Giri would have as black. It feels like a position he'd play as white, where you have the space. You have kind of some King's Indian, as I said, like ideas there.
So I can see myself getting into a similar problem where, maybe I don't have the openings that kind of suit a comeback situation. But I would expect Anish to adjust. That's all. Is that not every match is going to go your way, but I feel that he's been playing over and over the same openings that haven't brought success and that don't yield like necessarily the biggest advantage, even when the match situation has been like it is. So I just expect him to adapt more.
For sure. Like, I understand we're being critical of that. I think if we were to interview Anish, I don't think that's on the cards. It would probably be like, the way Jan played today, I felt like I couldn't get anything, which is a very reasonable perspective. You still want to try something different, but so much credit to the way Nepo has just not given anything.
Nothing, yeah.
It's
hard to do to someone like
than
Anish.
it is because of how well he's playing.
But the reality is, the last couple games, you could tell that Jan took his foot off the gas a little bit, and in the Blitz segments have just been so dominant. That's been a theme in the SCC round 1 matchups, the round of 16, that if you can dominate the Blitz portions, honestly, it doesn't really matter how the bullet goes because the leads have just been insurmountable.
Yeah, like I certainly didn't anticipate it that Jan would just continue building that Blitz, like the lead, right? Like 5 games I said was like, that's a huge lead for players that are fairly evenly matched. But he just kept putting up the points. Like, it's to be completely winning by the time you enter the bullet segment. That's a luxury, of course, but you have to win almost every game. We're simply talking about matches, again, top players not winning a single game for periods up to like an hour. That level of consistency to shut out top players, really something. Because it's very easy for me to talk as the commentator, like, Anish isn't adjusting, stuff like that, but to really think like you couldn't get a single win for an hour, and that the best game of the match in my eyes, Amon, was game 2. That didn't win. Maybe like, but that was it. That was the only game from start to finish where we're like, Anish outplayed and was completely winning. That's the only game I can think of.
Yep.
And it's so hard to play against someone you know is very good, and they just outplay you like that from start to finish. Like chess 1-on-1, just it's an ego crusher. It's a confidence crusher. There's no one there to help you out. No one there to help you adjust, and you just feel like you're playing against a brick wall.
Yep. There's only a couple more bullet games that we can really see. That is a full and free piece. Jan Nepomniachtchi is really starting to let it slip a little bit, Eric, but like we've been talking about, it's because he can.
A 5 here.
Yeah, he showed everything that he needed to show in the Blitz. Might see 2 more games. Depends. Depends how fast they play. But playing this one out certainly is increasing the chance that we actually only see 1 more game after this.
Mm-hmm. Looking yep. Jan is about to wrap up this match. Just draining the clock.
Yeah, A2, and don't touch any of the pawns. Some pre-moves here. He's going to have 30 seconds to spend as well.
Some consolation points for Anish Giri, but I can tell you he doesn't, feel like that. These guys are here to win, to try to advance. That's the whole purpose of the format. And yeah, I mean, just looking to get it over with. But
yeah,
I guess technically this helps me in my prediction that it wouldn't
That's right.
be as one-sided as the other match.
It
But,
does. It also
I would-
helps Anish, as the fact of the matter is the money that is shared is split a little bit by win percentage as well. So there is a
Pick
lot
up a
of
few bucks. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. There's some value being gained here.
Yeah, the big prize is advancing, but if you're going to lose and you can pick up a few more dollars in doing so, might as well.
And Nepo almost at that full minute still. Now, I've always been wondering, I haven't seen it quite yet, but is anyone going to be able to finish an entire game with basically the starting time on their clock? And I think a little too much to ask for with the skill level of the players involved here.
It could do it. Oh, that's a queen hang. I know one player in particular by the name of Magnus. He likes to give himself challenges. There's been SCC matches where he picked his openings randomly or had some dice or something, or just some little side quests.
Oh yeah.
So it's not totally unheard of. Can I do this? Can I do that? But yeah, not necessarily seeing it here, but you just wow. I would be curious.
Something you couldn't have expected,
we're
Eric?
not. Yeah, no, it would be nice to not today, but to ask Anish some questions how he felt, because I do think he probably felt the way Jan played today was just extremely difficult for him to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got that feeling about a few players in the Speed Chess Championship so far. So it's really getting me excited, Eric, about the next round matchups, like the quarterfinals, because you get that feeling seeing a certain player look indestructible. And then you realize you got that same feeling maybe about Hans, right, in that matchup. And then
Yeah,
you
the guys
realize,
are playing.
yeah, they're going to be up against one another. And match clock expiring top left of your screen, which means we can very officially say that Jan is well on his way to winning this matchup and yeah, taking out Anish from this year's SCC.
Yeah, you might be able to take on E7. This is the final game. What Black's going for checkmate on the queen side. Rook E8, queen D6. And now you move your knight out of the way somewhere. No, there we go. Yeah, I was going to say somewhere. And that's the move. That's a great move. That's maybe the best move of the match. That stops everything.
That's amazing.
That
Rook
now
G4
Rook
is
E1,
coming,
yeah,
but
Rook E1, Rook G4, knight goes back to G3. That's one of the rare occurrences where knight H1 is the best move. It's a great move. It stops mate and takes away the pressure. So
there it is. Look at the defense. Rook E3, slide over.
Queen takes.
Beautiful.
So a consolation win from Anish to finish here is what we're expecting. But yeah, can't say enough about just the way Nepomniachtchi played this and didn't give anything.
Yeah, it was very impressive.
It takes a really high level to make Anish look like this.
And there you go. Resignation. Giri wins the final game. But obviously, Jan Nepomniachtchi beats Anish Giri and advances to the quarterfinals of this year's Speed Chess Championship. Eric, by all accounts, it was a dominant performance by Jan. Just wasn't Anish's day. He couldn't make the openings he was bringing to the table work. But bottom line, Jan was not blundering. And quite frankly, you play a match without any serious blunders, you're going to win just about every single time. 17.5 to 11.5 is your final score.
Yeah, you're gonna win most of those matches. And like, what brings Anish success? Like, that's what he did today. He repeated the openings. He normally does really well. Like, it's so hard on the fly in the middle of this match to just change everything. Like, this is what brings him success. He's a top player, and today it just was completely neutralized. And it's gonna have to be another SCC or another opportunity for him to, if he plays Jan, to try something different. It's really hard in the middle of a match to just be like, my approach isn't working. It's such a hard adjustment when this is what's brought you so much success in your career. But yeah, today the brick wall, Jan, dominant, defense, so good, and well, every opportunity he had to push and to win, felt like he cashed all of that, like every single chance.
And
just
he
such a momentum player, and this is why he's an exciting player in the format, and why he has fans in the chess world. Like, he's got some top end results. He's very, very capable of that on a good day.
Yep, and that's why. Well, exciting that I think we're going to be able to grab him for an interview as well. So stay where you are, everyone, because the winner of this SCC matchup, Jan Nepomniachtchi, we'll speak to him right after the break.
Who is your favorite person in the tournament as a friend?
Fabiano Caruana, because he's a very friendly person.
I think I have good contact with Javi. Oh, Prague. I also get along very well with Prague. Fabio Praganda, probably, yeah.
Well, Fabiano Caruana.
Probably Gukesh, Domarajo.
Maybe Kasparov.
Maybe for fun, yeah, Magnus, because we are in Team Liquid now.
What is your favorite city in the world?
The Hague.
Where I live, Minnesota.
Krakow.
Probably Paris.
I like generally, Switzerland, Geneva, Dubai or Doha is also very, very, very suitable for me.
Yeah, I'd say Chennai.
Are you more a night owl or an early bird?
I'm definitely a night owl.
Early bird nowadays.
Early bird. Late. It depends on my routine, because sometimes I night owl and sometimes I'm early bird.
Recently I became night owl because I played in many classical tournaments and I have to prepare. My advice is just to be a morning person.
I wake up around 9.
8:30.
Maybe 9. Sometimes 10.
I usually at 10 a.m.
Actually, I wake up early, around 8, 9. But whenever I study chess, it's always late.
10 maybe, but 9:30.
The fastest, easiest way to improve your chess is now the most fun way to improve your chess. Chess.com's brand new puzzles now have loads of exciting features to make solving a joy. Earn points and race your friends across puzzle tiers from wood to bronze, all the way to legend. Rack up bonuses for streaks, for speed, for accuracy, for daily solving, difficulty, and more. And now, you can get feedback from Coach while solving puzzles. Coach lets you know what each puzzle's goal is and why a move doesn't actually work. And, as always, puzzles will be selected just for your level from our database of hundreds of thousands of high-quality, beautiful, brilliant, and instructive puzzles. So what are you waiting for? Try puzzles today on web, Android, or iOS, and have a blast leveling up your chess.
we're back with the Speed Chess Championship, and I'm joined by the winner, the matchup that we just enjoyed, Grandmaster Jan Nepomniachtchi. First of all, Jan, obviously, congratulations. You won. You're moving on in the competition, but talk to me about how you're feeling, because from our perspective, honestly, it was kind of a one-sided matchup. Is that what you expected coming into today?
Thank you so much. Okay, absolutely not. So, especially like early in the match, it could go a little bit different. Yeah, because at some point I got like lucky, saving something lost, and then winning something I wouldn't be necessarily winning. But okay, such as Blitz, and then suddenly, when like the score was quite satisfying for me, like whatever +5, +6, suddenly like Anish started like making all these draws, which was like a bit shocking. But I was obviously up for such an activity. Yeah, I would surely repeat the moves every time I could.
Right. Yeah, I was actually going to ask you more about those draws. I mean, obviously, Anish has this funny reputation for being a guy that goes for draws, but he was doing it in a position where obviously he needed to make a comeback. So that was what was surprising. Did you feel at that point that you were maybe getting the lucky breaks, but also just playing better, and he was happy to just try his luck in the bullet?
I didn't feel like any lucky breaks. I felt like I'm getting some really good training in Catalan. We're one of the best players of Catalan in the world, so this matters a lot, of course. Though it was like a bit too dry and drawish, but normally you would especially spend like several hours for playing such positions with an opponent of such caliber, but during the training session. But here it was like it went for me like as gratis, and eventually I was earning some money with every next draw. Yeah, so it was win-win situation.
Yeah, you get to play. You guys actually played. I'd love to know the stats on this, but I think you guys played almost the most games that I've seen, certainly in a little while, because they happened so quickly. But even though the score kind of evened up at the end, I think it was a match that you had under control for the most part. Anish and you actually haven't played in the SCC before, but he's an opponent that obviously you're very familiar with. So was there any, difference playing him in a SCC format compared to the others?
Well, I think it was our first Blitz match, so we played quite a bit of rapid matches during all these years. And somehow I would say he was quite good during like the Blitz tight breaks. So I think once it cost me like the finals or something, like or the title in one of the tournaments. Then I even surpassed Magnus, but I couldn't win a bit Anish in the finals. But it was like whatever, like 5 years ago already. Yeah, so well. Okay, Anish played quite well in the tournament this year where it really mattered. So I think all in all, he's not too upset with what happened today.
Yeah, that's very fair. And congrats to Anish on that. There's a chat question, although you kind of touched on this already. Basically, how was it like playing the same opening over and over? You mentioned almost just good prep and good practice. Is that how you view it?
Well, it was a bit boring for the audience, I guess, but he tried different lines with black. But with white, he was keep hitting the Catalan, and okay, I needed to fix things after first 2 games. Okay, I decided to play more solid. But also I think during all these matches, like recently, okay, there was like Niemann match against Anish, Niemann match against Dubov, and so on. I think it's also like very topical sometimes. So some people they just play, I don't know, like 10 different openings, I normally would do. Yeah, if the score is not good for me, I would try like C4, D4, knight E3, okay, whatever works. But in all these matches, I would notice that okay, they would like keep like spamming one line like for like 10 games with whatever. Would it be like Catalan as like Dubov against Niemann, or like Italian with colors reversed and Niemann was white? So that's very normal for now. But somehow to my taste, it still was like a bit dry what he was trying to do, because he was like repeating this line with symmetrical pawn structure. Yeah, and I think like barely expects any problems there.
Right. I actually saw you had one game. I think it actually might have been a loss, but you played a favorite opening of yours, the King's Gambit, and then you never played it again. Was that because of the match situation that you felt comfortable playing it, or is this an opening we can expect more from you?
No, I mean, I was like too ashamed because at some point I just forgot d4 is hanging, so I just blundered. So the idea, like after bishop f5 to play knight e2, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, this position is surely massively better for black. I think he played quite nicely, and probably he studied this line, as a part of preparation. Okay, could be. But I was like so ashamed, and okay, at some point, like I started to blunder in every game. And I mean, he blundered either, but still was a bit annoying. Good, I had like whatever, like plus 10 at that point, so I wasn't too worried about the overall outcome. So I was mostly checking like the match clock instead of the board.
Yeah, that's fair. And just to conclude, Jan, because of the victory, you're moving on in the competition. And I don't know if you have seen the bracket, but your next opponent is going to be Ali Reza. So any thoughts on Ali Reza as you move on to face him in the quarterfinals?
Well, Ali Reza is very challenging, and I mean, depends on the day. I think on a good day for both of us, we would be like quite close, because okay, once again, it's like +1 section, so it would be never like. I mean, it could be bad in bullet for me, but not too bad, I would say, because it's always +1, and I think we have roughly even score on Chess.com in our like friendly games and so on. Yeah, so of course it'll be very challenging, but now I'm sort of more focused of like what's coming next, what's coming next, and this is the World Cup.
Of course. Well, Jan, best of luck, and of course in your next SCC matchup, we look forward to commentating against Ali Reza, and congrats for your win today.
Thanks again. See you.
See you. And that is Grandmaster Jan Nepomniachtchi. Eric, what a result, and just a match put forth by Jan against Anish. You speak about how good Anish is, and then to see and watch Jan basically take this match by storm is incredibly impressive as he moves on to face Ali Reza.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people might describe Jan as a streaky player. Today, we didn't see any of that. That was start to finish, world class speed chess, and just deserving. All the matchups. I mean, there's one more preliminary match, but we already see that bracket, and as you mentioned, a lot of players bringing some serious momentum going into the quarterfinals, where it's like, how do you want to bet on them because they did so well, but they're facing someone else that looked so dominant too. Things should tighten up for sure.
Yeah,
in for a treat.
Exactly. Moving into the quarterfinals, there's only one more match that really sets the stage there, and that one is upcoming. It is going to be Fabiano against Prague. This is going to be a very, very tense matchup. It is happening tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. That is 4 p.m. Central European Time. Eric, Fabi versus Prague. Any initial thoughts on that one? We have obviously sort of that mainstay, but then the great energetic young talent in Pragnananda.
Amon, I got to admit, it was a few days ago. I was streaming at like 5 a.m. I was telling myself, go to bed. Got a challenge from Prague and Bullet, and he hurt me really bad. He is ready for this format. He hurt me real bad. He's working on Blitz. He's working on Bullet. That should be a good one, because players like Pragnananda, they're just getting better every year. And India itself has just so many top talented young players, but he's scary. And we already know about Fabiano. For sure, but I just mean like watch out for Prague, because I still have bruises from the Bullet beatdown he put on me. So I'll be watching that one. I think it's you and Danny hosting it, but want to say, Amon, it's been fun doing commentary. Hope we can do it again soon.
Absolutely, it's been a great couple shows.
Yeah. Hopefully I can sneak in for another one, but I'll be watching you and Danny this week, and just excited for some more speed chess coming up, and thanks to the audiences as well.
Yeah,
that's what makes it fun,
Exactly.
We're not
Having
here just
everyone-
already, you know, Mon and I already see each other enough, but we're here to hang out with the audience and break down the matches. So thanks to everyone. We look forward to some more. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course,
Shout out
yeah.
to the
hopefully
producers as well.
Yes, shout out to our producers. It's not always the same one, but has been for the last couple shows. So go producers, and yeah, hopefully the security is light and you're able to sneak back in for another show, Eric. But I've got the commentary tomorrow, so I'll see everyone back on this same channel, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Fabi against Prague, the SCC, the final first round matchup. The winner moves on to face Magnus Carlsen in the quarterfinals. So tune in tomorrow and find out who that player is going to be. That's the SCC. We'll see you next time.